Hey, you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am your host, Cameron Hawkins, and along with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing good today. You got caught a little bit with Christine sneaking in the
I got
background, I think.
I got caught, but I was able to recover. I think I recovered well on
No,
that.
you did. You did.
So,
I'm the asshole pointing it out right now. No, but I'm doing good today. I'm doing good. Been it's been busy, but in a good way, and just kind of getting shit on track right now. How about you? How you doing right now?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing my best. I do want to say the fit is great today. Great fit.
The Kupo mail.
But also the jacket. I'm really digging the jacket because at first it was the shirt. I'm like every time I see you do a video and you're wearing that shirt, I'm like that is such a good shirt.
Oh,
And I'm one of those people that have kind of like I used to like wear a lot of bright colors. Those but I like over time I just gained so much weight and I kind of a little bit became like a little bit
subconscious
self-conscious
about it.
about
Yeah.
it. So I now like really only wear like blacks and blues and like dark colors. Um and I have like some red as well, but yeah, and I see that yellow, I'm like, oh, such a cool shirt.
Yeah.
But I
No,
just
for the
like
I,
I
I'm the same way for the most part. Like the vast majority of my wardrobe is like dark blue, dark red, green on occasion. This is like my one yellow shirt because I mean I can't deny the design. For
it's
anyone
so
that's
good.
listening, I'm wearing a shirt that says Kupo Mail, and it's a yellow shirt. The Moogle wearing a little like it's like little Postman design, but it's also done in the style of I think it's like Super Mario Brothers 3. Just the way his like positioning is,
Yes.
it's like Mario flying away. It's great. I love it.
Yes. It's
It's one of
really,
my
really
favorite
good.
shirts.
But yeah, also the jacket. I like the style on the jacket as well. So
Yeah. It's an
I'm just wearing
overall
my I got this shirt from when they did
Game
they announced
Awards.
the Sega thing at the Game Awards, yeah,
Yeah,
and they were just handing out shirts. I'm like, I'll take a free shirt.
I remember that.
I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for free shirts, so it's comfy too. It's like nice material. Like I am a fan. But yeah, this is our this week's episode of Party Chat, and we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. But first, we got to get into some housekeeping. If you have been enjoying the show, please go to your podcast platform of choice and give us a 5-star rating, whether that be on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever other podcast service you use. And on top of that, if you can go to our YouTube channel, Party Chat, a JRPG podcast, and give us a sub, that helps a lot, helps with us getting more exposure and things like that. Also, you can support us on Patreon if you want to throw some bucks our way. And we have a bunch of different tiers giving a bunch of different rewards, like getting the podcast a day early, a monthly Q&A, Campfire Catalog, which is like our book club podcast. Our first episode is going to come out very soon, in a couple of weeks, on Chrono Trigger. And so that is also exclusive to Patreon uh, payers if you pay at a specific tier. And then lastly, go to youtube.com/Kevin Kenson and give Kevin a sub over there as he's trying to get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. But now we're going to get into the news. And as I said before, there's a lot to talk about, especially if you're a Final Fantasy fan.
Oh
This is
yeah.
a really interesting week for news. So, what happened was a Japanese outlet known as Kabutan released an article talking about a few different they covered like a few different Japanese companies, studios, publishers. But what really came into that article was some Square Enix news, some sales numbers. Um, there were some mentionings on some other games like Dragon Quest Monsters 3, The Dark Prince has hit 1 million copies sold. Um, which that is only a Switch game and PC game, correct? That's only on Switch and PC.
I'm sorry. Which game?
Dragon Quest Monsters 3, The Dark Prince.
Yes, I don't believe that got any other platform. Let me
I know it's
double.
Switch. I just don't know if it was on PC. I think it was.
I think it got PC.
But yeah, that got a million copies sold milestone, which is really cool.
Yeah,
But the thing
PC,
that
Switch, and mobile.
okay, but the thing that was really interesting is that apparently in a financial briefing, the president of Square Enix revealed that Final Fantasy XVI has hit 3.5 million copies sold. Now that might sound good, like to a certain extent, if you're not super knowledgeable about the sales numbers of Final Fantasy over the years, as well as um, the like how quickly it took to get to other milestones for this game.
Yeah,
But this is actually kind of crazy in a bad way.
in a bad way. Yeah.
So the week of Final Fantasy 16 releasing on PS5 exclusive, it hit 3 million copies sold. And since then, it has gone to PC in September of last year. So it's been out for 6 months on PC. And apparently, since that PC release, there's only been an additional 500k copies sold.
Yep.
That is crazy. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that?
That's not great. Yeah, it's tough too because like it always feels shitty to be like, oh man, 3.5 million. That's like not good because depending on the scale of a game, right? Like what went into it and what you're trying to do, like that could be a great number. The amount of money and expectations that were weighing on this title, being a mainline Final Fantasy and them trying to push the more action direction and like this is the future and just the overall presentation of that game. Like I'm sure there were all kinds of hopes and dreams for bonkers numbers on this. Like we always talk about Square Enix kind of having higher goals than are realistic always, but this one especially, I'm sure was just 3.5 is not great for what went into this. I there's all kinds of questions you can ask. How well would this have done if it was more platforms immediately? I've seen a lot of people argue for same day PC would make a difference. Even though it's not like the largest add-on, having like Xbox as well in there right away, like just not restricting it only to PS5. But even then, like that feels like a low enough number that this is significant of more than just like platform restrictiveness. Like this feels like there's more going on here in terms of audience interest and just the size they want for it not really being there.
Yeah, so I have a lot of different directions I want to talk about this because I think it is very representative on both the Square Enix side and just the PlayStation 5 side of things. So I want to go over let's start with the Square Enix side. I want to go over all of the sales for each mainline Final Fantasy game as of like their last reported. So like I took a lot of time. You would think that this would be very accessible information. This took me like almost 2 hours to find to find a number with an actual source. And so like I want to go over this and I think this is going to put in a little bit more perspective here. So when it comes to Final Fantasy 1 through 6, it's really muddy, but I want to also just put into perspective here that's another like kind of news story under this umbrella is that Square Enix revealed or announced that the Pixel remaster hit 5 million copies sold.
So I do have a question about that. Because what does that actually mean and how do they track that? Do they break down what that means? Because I'm curious, because they sell them all individually, digitally. So it's like, are they counting someone bought 3 Pixel Remaster as one sale? Or are they saying someone who bought all 6 of them digitally, is that 1 or is that 6? And then how do they count the physical sales as a result? Like, what does that number actually mean?
I really do not know. And that does put a lot of perspective into that. But like, even so, like, I think that's a pretty impressive number, considering, for the longest time, it was really just like 1, 4, and 6 that were accessible in a more recent, I guess, way. 5 as well, but like even then, like 5 was the one version, right? Like you could play it on Game Boy Advance, or you couldn't play it at all.
There was a PS1 release too.
Oh, was there?
Yep, Anthology. It was 5 and 6 together.
Okay. Well, I take that back. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where it could be like, hey, a lot of people bought 4 and 6, because those were like the more ones we're more acquainted with. But I really don't know. But just to put that in perspective, also like 3 million of those copies were sold after the console release too, which is interesting. Final Fantasy VII, as of Square Enix's 2023 annual report, has sold 14.4 million. Does not include compilation. That is just Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VIII was 9.6 as of 2019. Final Fantasy IX, over 5 million. We don't know exactly how high, but over 5 million as of February of 2019. Final Fantasy X/10-2, it kind of has to be bundled together because of how they did the remaster. 20.8 million as of July 2022. I could not get an answer on Final Fantasy XI. I genuinely could not find an answer. So we don't know about Final Fantasy XI, and it's an MMO, so it is what
kind
it
of
is.
different rules anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone can find this answer, which I don't know if 11 is structured the way 14 is, where it's just like, hey, how many unique players there are is basically how many copies sold there are. I don't know if that is the same application for 11, but yeah, could not find an answer. Final Fantasy 12, 7.1 as of October 2017. Final Fantasy 13, 6.6 million as of January 2013. 13.2, 3.1 million as of January 2013. Lightning Returns, 800K as of November 2014. Final Fantasy 14, 24 million as of October 2021. Final Fantasy 15, 10 million as of May 2022. And Final Fantasy 16, which we just learned. So 3.5, like it is, outside of the retro era, because that's where it gets a little bit uncertain. It is the second lowest selling.
Yeah,
it is the second lowest selling,
yeah.
unless we're not counting the original Final Fantasy 14.
Well, and not only that, but like it's the second lowest selling, and the only thing selling worse than it is the third entry in a unpopular trilogy of entries. With Final Fantasy 13, like that is.
And I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that goes right into what I'm about to say. Is that like when we look at outside of 10, which I think 10 it sold like buckets because one, it was just really beloved for its time on the PS2, which is like the best-selling console of all time, and then it got its remaster pretty early in the era of the PS4, if I remember correctly, too. So that like also just led to a lot of potential sales.
Yeah. Well,
What's interesting that
it also got remastered on PS3 and then re-released on PS4.
Oh yeah, it did.
It's been
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Vita.
Yeah.
So like it's been on a lot of things. It has had opportunities for sales. Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. You're right. Because I forget about that with Kingdom Hearts. He was like, oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts was on PS3 first. But what's interesting about it is that like at the time of Final Fantasy 13's release, it was the I believe it was the highest or quickest selling Final Fantasy game to date. And that game is like incredibly divisive, incredibly divisive. And the development behind that game, like for those that don't know, like there was just like so much like butting of heads, like in sense of like, oh, we want to do this, but like it didn't all work out. And then this is kind of what we got. And I'm a 13 defender. I love 13. But like factually, it had a lot of problems, and the reception was really divisive.
Yeah.
But it sold really well, and it made them commit to like this to this trilogy. And then you look at Final Fantasy 15, which, oh my god, the development, like probably one of the craziest development stories ever, like just ever. And
Bonkers.
it sells 10 million copies. And like, granted, like they marketed the hell out of it, like in all this stuff. I get that, but 10 million copies, and I don't think, because if I remember correctly, Final Fantasy 14 or 15 didn't release on PC at launch. It was just console. It was just PS4 and Xbox, and it came to
That sounds
PC
correct.
later.
Yes, that
Yeah,
sounds correct.
and so to me, it just kind of shows that like I think that 16. The point I'm trying to make is like 13 and 15, really tough developments, really divisive reception. 13 definitely more than 15, but like 15 was an unfinished game.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Even
And
after
it
all
sells,
the updates.
and it sells super well. And then 16 comes along and there's like no issues whatsoever. It is like it like no development issues. Did it even get a delay? Did it even get delayed once? I don't even think it did.
I don't recall any major delays, no. I mean, none
Yeah.
that were at least public.
Like, I think that 16 just did such a good job at being like, hey, this game exists. And then when they were ready to show more, they showed more. And then they're like, all right, here's the release date. And then it came out. And like, granted, like I'm not as high on 16 as I am 13 and 15 for myself, but like it is an incredibly well-made game. And it really had like no real issues comparatively to 13 and 15, but it just didn't sell. And like again, like in the whole like action approach to it, it's like, no, what you're saying makes sense. People want to play more action-esque games, and they don't want to play like turn-based or like, you know, that type of thing. That no, it makes sense that you're going down this route and you're trying something here. And it just doesn't sell. But I think it goes into line with the PS5 hasn't been a really great console. Like the PS5 hasn't met like the expectations after the PS4, similar to the PS3 after the PS2. And like yes, like the PS5 has sold well.
Yeah.
That there's no denying that, but I don't think that the exclusive catalog of PS5 games, whether it be first party or otherwise, super justifies purchasing a PS5 specifically to play those games, which is why we hear these conversations now of just like, if you can just have a PC, just have a PC. Like you don't really need a console unless it's like a preferred way for you to play.
Yeah.
Outside of the Switch, right? It's like you don't need a PlayStation, you don't need an Xbox, because these games are either going to launch day and date on PC or they're going to come later on PC. And like and Final Fantasy is a similar boat, and I think that just like they put so much of their eggs into the PS5 basket that it just didn't get the attention or like the interest that they were hoping for. And you know, because I know people might be listening to this, but Cameron, what about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? That's a sequel. That's a game that already existed that people played on the PS4, and they're like, oh, I can't wait for the next game. Like 16, you know, it's not a new IP, but it is like, hey, this is a completely new thing under this umbrella that people could be like, oh, like I'm not really interested in this for this way or the other. That I don't know. I just think that this speaks partially on like the kind of like the how the PS5 has served as a console, especially for exclusive titles, and then also just like how Square Enix and like the weird way that like the mismanaged projects have like turned out to be super successful, but the ones that like have like no drama whatsoever just doesn't get the love that you'd think it would.
Sure. I'm gonna push back a little bit on some of what you're saying.
Okay,
yeah,
I
hear what you're saying. Like I agree the idea that like putting all your eggs in the PS5 basket alone was not the right call necessarily. But I don't know how much PS5 audience is like the issue here. Because like we can talk about how this generation has not been great overall and how, you know, PlayStation 5 is kind of selling as well as it is primarily because of like people that just prefer console and want to keep it going. But that's not like that's no one. Like it's in line with the PS4 as far as sales go. It's not like drastically underselling or anything. It's underselling Sony's own goals for it. But there are a lot of users out there. There's a lot of audience out there. And so it's the conversion of that audience to picking up Final Fantasy that's the issue more so than just simply like no one's there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think I do think part of it is, you know, again, I think you can attribute some of it to being only on one system. I'm sure there were people that would have loved to pick it up that are primarily Xbox or primarily PC, and they would have done it at launch, and then they just didn't when it got ported later because the hype passed by and they didn't care anymore. Totally valid. Um, I also think, though, that when you're talking about the kind of issues that 13 had going into development, the issues 15 had going into development, both those games also had a lot more lead up, though. There was so much more time and marketing that went into the incoming release. Like, I remember talking about 13 in 2006. Like
that was the year. That was the year it was announced. It was announced in 2006.
Yeah, like how early in advance we were already talking about getting hyped for these games, and 15, in a sense, we were talking since 2006 as well, because versus 13, right?
Yeah.
And on top of that, I think that those games were following up when overall series momentum was still at a very large high. Like 12 is controversial, not the right word, because I feel like the love-hate on it is not nearly as aggressive as it is for 13. But like 12 is one that people are kind of like, yeah, this one was like fine. I liked this one. Maybe I didn't like the tab target style MMOE combat, whatever. It was okay. Or some people really loved it. But you're coming from 10 onto that, and then we go into 13, which, again, very controversial. 15, also controversial in its own ways. I think that while they did have that strong opening energy because of lead up and polish, and also just not having as many entries on those platforms for their time, right? Like 15 was like the PS4, Xbox One Final Fantasy when it came out. 13 was the big debut for it on PS3 and 360. Like that was their title, right? And while 16, I think, could occupy that space for PS5, we already had that wall break down a little bit, I think, with Remake getting re-released right away. And in general, this generation, I think, just hasn't been that exciting for a lot of people from a technology standpoint, as far as like how much better stuff is looking. Like stuff is looking better, but it's not the leap that we had going into PS3 or even PS4 to a lesser degree. And so I think there's a little bit of the momentum overall for the franchise has just been slowing down for these. And again, I don't think 16 got nearly as much lead up. Like, I think there was a really strong marketing budget and push for it once it was announced, but I feel like it was a much tighter window than we saw for the last couple, where we had like years of just like chasing breadcrumbs and trying to find out what was going on with the next Final Fantasy.
Well, that's the thing that I think that Square has been doing better is like not announcing games early and more announcing them like when, hey, like this is coming, this is coming like relatively soon. And because again, like I've been doing like research for my book, and like I've just been I don't remember a time where it felt like every day, obviously I'm over exaggerating, but like it felt like so often you would hear something negative about a game being developed at Square Enix. And it was just like, it just continuously. And then there was just like new information about like, when 15 was like on the verge of coming out, or like maybe a year or two before it came out, there was just like so much kind of like really eye-opening shit about Square Enix. Like, like they introduced, they introduced Versus 13 in 2006, and then like I think 6 years later, like Tabata's like, yeah, that game was like a fifth of the way done when I hopped on board, and it's just like, what? Like, what have they been doing this entire time? And it's just like, I just feel like that Square has kind of it still has its like I think it has like normal stumbles that you expect, like that you see from a lot of like big studios nowadays. That like they're kind of past that, and 16 kind of felt like, even though I don't particularly like the direction they went in, just because I like my more traditional JRPGs. I it was just refreshing that there was like no real like issues with this game as it was during its development, news cycle of stuff.
Yeah.
And I just think that, you know, you're not wrong about the PS5. Like, hey, it's selling super well. Like, it's not super far behind the PS4 or anything like that. But I also think that there's like the perspective of how many of those PS5s are for people that like basically play the same 2 or 3 games that come out every year, whether it be like sports games, COD, things like that.
Sure.
And then those that are actually buying these consoles to play exclusive titles. I don't remember what the last like number of like the like million sales update for PS5 consoles. But I think that I think that this is still a solid representation that like, hey, this might be just because of like the PS5 console gamer isn't really trying like playing these games. They're not really getting a PS5. Like they might be getting a like they might end up playing like a Naughty Dog title. They might end up playing like Spider-Man, but not all the other Insomniac stuff. They might play like God of War, but even but they aren't playing every first party PlayStation exclusive like Returnal, which is personally my favorite PS5 exclusive, and I think it was one of the lowest selling. Like that, it just kind of sucks. It's sad. It's sad to hear because like you want these developers to do well. And Final Fantasy is just such a it's such an iconic thing.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the article that kind of like I scrolled past my timeline, but I saw an article saying that like Final Fantasy is in a identity crisis. And like while I haven't taken the time to read that article yet, just based off of the title alone, like I don't think Final Fantasy the IP is the issue. I think it is more that there are these outlying things that like Squared can't really control currently, that outside of like maybe in the future, which they already have talked about going multi-platform moving forward.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's just kind of like I thought that they marketed that game a lot. I thought they marketed that game well. Like, was it as big as 15? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I still thought they did a great job and of sending the message. And granted, that could be a kind of a rose-colored glasses type thing because I am a fan of JRPGs and I follow that stuff more than the normal person. But yeah, it's just one of those things where this kind of sucks, and I hope that regardless of how I feel about the direction they went or anything like that, and I hope that things get better for the eventual Final Fantasy 17.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% in agreement in terms of that, right? Like, like, I have loved this. I'm wearing a Moogle shirt right now. Like, this is one of the defining franchises and IPs that has guided my tastes and evolution as someone who plays games. I agree that there are factors outside their control, I think, that do contribute a bit to change. Like time moves on, audience taste changes, general trends, what people are into. But I do think there is also a little identity crisis with their choices as well. I don't want to bang the drum of being like, it should have been turn-based. Turn-based is how it's going to actually be the thing that sells. But I think there's a lot of things about the direction of 16 that does feel more different from what a lot of people I think consider kind of the golden era of Final Fantasy. I personally place that around 4 through 10. I know everyone's got their own little barrier they adjust, but I think that's kind of
Sure.
like the peak of what most people think of when they think Final Fantasy. Um, and I think a problem that they're running into a little bit is that, sure, there are more people out there interested in real-time actiony games, and they want to go where those people are. How
Mm.
many of those people are going to pay attention to the 16th entry of a long-running JRPG franchise because they heard that the combat changed a little? Like, I just wonder if the gains they're making from the directions they've been going are equal to the losses of how many people I know I've talked to who are like, I stopped at 15. I stopped at 13. I got tired of what they were, of how the series was developing with each entry. And yeah, I don't know. It's a complex thing. There's a lot of different factors that I think lead into why this undersold as much as it did. I don't think there's any singular
Mm.
answer where you can just point to and go, that's why. But clearly there is something wrong, multiple
Mm.
things wrong.
I mean,
And
yeah. I
it
mean, like,
sucks.
yeah. I'll just say like this last bit, and you can say your piece, and then we can move on. But like, I think that 16 definitely out of like all of the mainline games is the most uh the tonally it's just very different, right? It's more mature, it's more serious, and I think that there is a um I think like with a lot of Square like big Square properties like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts are like the two big ones. Like there's like a level of like innocent like in like the tone and the like the even the presence and like the like cuz like I'm not trying to think of like whimsical, but there's like this like level like this kind of like magic behind and when you say magic, it's just like what does that mean, right? And it's more like
Sure.
you just got to kind of play the games to understand what I'm saying here. But there's just like this level of this fantastical tone that a lot of these games have, and I would agree with you. Like, would be like from 4 to 10 that that people like really love and like know the series for. And I haven't played 12, so I can't really speak on 12. And like I love 13, but like I don't think 13 kind of like had that same vibe. I don't think 15 really had that same vibe, and 16 very much doesn't. But and so like yeah, maybe that is it. Maybe it's just like, hey, this doesn't feel like the franchise I fell in love with anymore. It doesn't really have to do with the gameplay. It's more of just like the experience of it
The whole
all.
thing, yeah.
And and so that's totally fair. But I also have always seen Final Fantasy as the series that that tries to innovate. It tries to do experimental things. Sometimes it's really well received, sometimes it is not, as we have seen with like 12, 13, like 15 and 16, like the more modern era. And because I grew up like in the late 90s, early 2000s, where like, once I really got exposed to Final Fantasy outside of 7, you know, I didn't really like get to experience like more Final Fantasy stuff until I was a little bit older. And so like the more modern Final Fantasy is kind of like the Final Fantasy that I kind of grew up with in a real way, that I just maybe that's just like a personal experience that is kind of clouding my judgment there. But even if you go back to like Final Fantasy VIII with the junction system and Final Fantasy IX, like there are even as far back as there, like there were experimentation, trying to innovate, do different things. So yeah, I don't know. I do think I still feel like ultimately it is a platform thing. I think that is like the biggest cause of this result, but I definitely think that there are other things at play um, regarding just like the franchise in and of itself.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think I lean more towards I think we both agree that both those factors matter. It's just we
Yes.
both which one we weigh a
We're on
little
the other
heavier.
side of the spectrum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
like which one weighs a little more. Because yeah, I agree. Platform actually absolutely plays a role, but I do think there's a little something else going on at the same time.
I
Um,
guess. Yeah, and the last thing, because I didn't mention this either. I kind of mentioned it, like implied it with Final Fantasy 15, but like with Final Fantasy 13, uh, like that game sold. The game sold really well, I think, because so many people had a PS3 and an Xbox 360 at that time. Like that was such like a huge moment in kind of gaming history that like
sure,
a lot of people bought them. And then like yeah, 15, I think it does have to go with like that aspect, but also the marketing aspect as well. That it, but you know, and then so like 16 kind of feels like the opposite side of the spectrum where it is limited to one console and is like, and the console in and of itself, while it's selling fine, like we're kind of in this place in gaming history where like exclusives aren't as big of a factor anymore. And uh again, this kind of discussion of like there's really no major reason to have a console unless you want a console specifically, and you can just have a PC and then a Switch. And
sure,
so like yeah, and so that's like the main thing that why I think that the platform has to do it is more just like the historical context of like the other games that like were divisive, that had a lot of trouble, but it still sold really well. And then Final Fantasy 16 is like the opposite.
yeah. I we could go on about this for a while because
Yes,
there's a lot
yes,
of stuff
yes,
you
yes,
also
yes,
just
yes.
dropped now that like if I wanted to get into the nitty gritty, as far as like whether or not exclusives matter, I think they do a bit more. That I know there's that narrative that like they don't as much, especially with how many are going delayed, release now. But that's a whole other can of worms. I don't know if we want to get into
No,
right
for
now.
sure.
Right
And
now,
like, I mean, it's yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to say that exclusives don't matter, like, period. I'm
sure.
just saying that there is this like discussion, you know, there is this discourse that like of that kind of
Yeah.
idea.
I think the
Um,
biggest thing to go overall is whether or not it's about PS5 specifically. I would say that there has been some general culture shifts in gaming the
yes,
last like 10 years that
yes,
I think play part of a role here. Absolutely. Um,
yeah,
and we could just leave it there.
yeah, 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 yeah. If we, you know, we'll see if it comes up later in the future. Um, so our second story, and I don't know how deep you want to go into this because I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but so you know, we can kind of feel this out. But
Hit me.
Scopely has acquired Niantic for $3.5 billion. I'm going to read this story that was up on Gamatsu. I'm just going to read it through because, again, not super knowledgeable, but like I have a decent idea of what's going on. So, Monopoly Go and Stumble Guys developer Scopely will acquire Niantic's games business, including Pokemon Go, Pikmin Bloom, Monster Hunter Now, and the development teams behind them for 3.5 billion, with an additional 350 million of cash from Niantic being distributed as part of the deal, Niantic announced. Quote, Scopely's focus on building and operating incredible live services, its exceptional experience working with the world's biggest and most beloved intellectual property, and care for its player communities and game making teams make it the perfect fit for our games, end quote, Niantic said in the announcement. Quote, our game team has exciting long-term roadmaps that they will continue to build upon as part of Scopely. This partnership ensues that our games have the long-term support needed to be, quote, forever games, end quote, that will endure for future generations. Players can expect that the games, apps, services, and events they know and love will continue to receive Scopely's ongoing investment, driven by the same teams that have always created these experiences, end quote. More information about the acquisition of Niantic's games business is available on the Scopely blog, and as well as a message from Scopely's co-CEOs Javier Ferreira and Walter Drive, and a message from Pokemon Go team lead Ed Wu. Meanwhile, Niantic will spin off its geospatial artificial intelligence business into a new company called Niantic Spatial, or spat, yes, spatial,
Spatial?
spatial, spatial, no, spatial, yeah. Uh, Yeah, geospatial. Did I say geospatial the first time?
You did.
Or geospatial? Geospatial artificial intelligence business into a new company called Niantic Spatial. Led by John Hank, Niantic Spatial will be funded with 250 million of capital, including 200 million from Niantic's balance sheet and a 50 million investment from Scopely. All of Niantic's original investors will also continue to be shareholders of Niantic Spatial. I just think that I feel like I'm not a mobile gamer,
Sure.
but I feel like this is a huge news.
It
Like, yeah,
is.
this is like this feels significant. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what. Yeah,
Yeah, I like okay. So my take on this, I don't know a lot about Scopely. I haven't played because they did like the Monopoly game or something, right? Yeah, I
yes,
don't know a lot about them. I don't know what their history is as far as managing games. I don't know what their contributions are outside of like monetization. I don't know. What I will say about Niantic, because I saw this question come up from a few people of like, 3.5 billion is not no money. That is
yeah,
that is a lot of money. But we're talking about a game that generates that in like 2 years. Right. It's like they were going to make more than that if they kept running the business. Because that game prints money. And I'm sure whatever, they only get so many cuts because of Pokemon and whatever. And I don't want to take full credit for this because I kind of had this idea, and then I saw a post from Kit of Kit and Krista talking about it, and he really hit the nail on the head, I think, for me, which is the idea that, like, look, at the end of the day, it's also interesting hearing this, by the way. If you're not familiar with Kit and Krista, they both formerly worked at Nintendo, so it's always interesting to kind of hear some of their perspective on things when it comes to games that are related to that brand. But his take was that at the end of the day, Niantic is a tech company, not a game dev. Like games were always kind of like a thing they were involved in with this gaming sector of the business. But at the end of the day, what really seemed to matter more to them is the technology and underlying. I mean, even the way you just described that business like disclosure about it, right? Is they're emphasizing how they make interesting live service systems, and they're looking forward to now spinning off into this geospatial thing. It kind of sounds like all the years of collecting data and doing whatever they did as part of Pokemon Go and the other Go style series, they got what they wanted, and they're like, cool, we're moving on to this now. Like we have the data, we have the information, we've worked our part through it. We're just gonna we're gonna get paid letting go of it right now, and we're on to this other thing. Which makes perfect sense to me. Like I think, I don't think Niantic is the kind of company where they were like, oh, we absolutely love Pokemon and we wanted to make the best bringing Pokemon into people's day-to-day lives app possible. I think they figured out how to take a pre-existing game they already had, adapt that into Pokemon style stuff, and made a ton of money off of it while also getting everyone to share their locational data constantly. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
yeah. I mean, I played Pokemon Go for the first like few months. Which what a time to be alive! What a time to be alive when that
Oh,
game
when it
first
first
launched.
dropped, that was
It,
magical.
I've never, yeah, like that was a time in history, in gaming history for sure. And
What a great day for
but
parks.
dude, it wasn't even part. It was just like anywhere, dude. Like anywhere, you just see a group.
Anywhere
There's
public.
so many people.
Yeah.
Anywhere public, you just see a bunch of people around. Um, but yeah, I don't know like what the monetary benefit behind this is. I know that Scopely is a very success. From what I've heard, is they're a very successful company. They've absolutely been like killing it. But you do make a good point that like, hey, we make this money easy. So like, what else are you offering? What else are you bringing to the table? Um, and so, but like also if like this kind of serves as a like I guess like a security blanket of sorts where like Niantic can focus more on the things that they want to do,
Yeah.
uh, and put more money in that in there, like cool. Uh, but it's kind of like it's kind of no, I wouldn't go this far, but it's kind of like the opposite of like the Activision deal, where it's just like that's a lot of money. That's a lot. I don't know if it's like y'all are worth that much money. And then Niantic is like, that ain't a lot. That's a lot of money, but not a lot of money from Niantic. And I feel like that there should be more money here.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. I guess like it's something that I want to kind of keep in the like keep an eye on, you know.
Yeah.
But like,
It'll be interesting to look at Pokemon Go a year from now and see what changed, if anything. You know, like if there's any
yeah,
major differences. I also don't know from like a community standpoint how much Niantic ran for events and such. Like I don't know if that's kind of all the Pokemon companies ballpark or if Niantic helped with any of that. Um,
yeah, because I know that they have the Pokemon Go community days,
yeah.
and I'm sure like anything that Niantic does with Pokemon Go, the Pokemon Company is involved in some aspect. How big that aspect is, who knows?
Yeah.
If you said very little, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. If you told me, oh, so much, I'd be like, okay, that also makes sense. Like it's kind of one of those.
Sure.
It's kind of like Nintendo, where like, oh, like Nintendo was somewhat involved. Okay, sure. They're super involved, aggressively so. Also makes sense. Um, but cool. That's that. This is a very quick thing, not anything crazy, but Atelier Yumiya comes out at the I think next week. There's a demo out now. Oh, on the 21st. It's on the 21st. Yeah, so it comes out this Friday. So a day after this goes out publicly. And there's going to be a Tales of Grace's F remastered costume collaboration where you can dress Yumiya as Asbel. It's free. So you can
Neat.
download that and do. I found it relative to relevant to talk about
Yeah.
because it's coming out this week and like if you play Atelier you probably play Tales, so I'm going
There's a
to
cross
say like,
section there
hey,
certainly. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So that's the thing.
Yeah. I do want to shout out one other bit of news. Just, I mean, I'm sure people have seen it by now. And this is more, I mean, Japanese dev, but still not quite RPG. We did also get the first actual, like, full trailer for Silent Hill F. And it looks
Hmm.
so much my jam. Like, did you watch this trailer?
Nope.
Oh, it is so good looking. I'm so excited about this game. Look, just give it a look. I know horror games aren't like your focus, but
Mm-mm.
it's
They're
good
not.
stuff.
It's not that they're not my focus. They're not my jam. They're not my jam.
Oh, it's so good. I don't know, man. I'm weird. I don't care about horror stuff in general. Like horror movies, like no interest. Zero
Nope.
interest. Horror games, 100%. Like get me in here, especially a lot of the Japanese developed ones. In particular, part of the deal with F that has me so excited is it's actually being written by, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, not because of pronunciation, but because it's like a stylized author name, Ryukishi07. He's responsible for writing the Higurashi series. So having like that kind of author history available in Silent Hill, and having a Silent Hill game take place in Japan, I'm. It looks so good. I need to
Higura-
know.
Higurashi is the When They Cry
Yes.
series, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I have heard really good things about that series. I think I have like just the first chapter downloaded on Steam. I've heard really good things. And so that actually does kind of perk me up a little bit. I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Like there's talent involved here that has me very excited. Like I'm a
Interesting.
little mixed in general about Konami's projects moving forward, even though I did love Silent Hill 2 remake. I'm kind of just taking each release as it comes. But this is, I think, the one where I'm like, no, it's got to be good, right? Like this is gonna be good. It has to be. Let this
I
one
mean,
be good.
Konami's been on an up streak for a while now, so I feel like, I mean, granted, you can say like, oh, they were just doing the Castlevania and the Contra
Sure.
ports, which W decision because
Yeah.
like I want to play those Castlevania games,
Oh, they're such good
um,
collections.
and then they did Silent Hill 2 and Suikoden and Metal Gear Solid Delta looks really good. Like, I think Konami might be back. You know what I mean?
Or at least handing it enough games to other people to have their IPs be relevant.
But like those have to like they still have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Like they're making good decisions
Yeah.
to give their IP to good companies. Um, cool. Well, we're gonna get into what we've been playing this week. Kevin, what have you been playing this week?
Honestly, more in the Western RPG sphere, but I do want to talk a little bit about. I did put a little more time into Suikoden 2 out of the 1 2 remaster collection.
Sure.
Uh, I mean, it's a great freaking game. I can't comment too much again on what we were talking about last time as far as the translation changes. I just know that
Hmm.
again, like they mostly rely on punching up what the original translation was, which was not a great one in the first place.
Hmm.
But just going from 1 to 2, like I heavily advise playing 1 first, especially since they're bundled together. But man, what a freaking upgrade. Like it just like across the board. Like 1 is good, but 2 really is like, okay, we made an RPG. We kind of figured out the framework, the nuts and bolts, and like what we want this game to be like. Now let's just do all of that, but better. In
Hmm.
terms of just, stronger characterization of all the party members, the way that the game's opening story happens, a lot of the early on conversations and character growth development moments, the drama that's added in this one, it's just so freaking good. Definitely one of the
Cool.
big classic PS1 RPGs that I wish more people got the chance to play, and now they do with this remaster.
Hmm.
And I can't recommend it enough. Like, such good stuff.
Okay. Okay. So I wanted to wait till I finished the game, but
But
my foreseeable future is kind of like I don't know if I'm gonna have a whole lot of time to play games because I am going to be working a lot, and I really need to finish. I need to finish my book. So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to play games moving forward for the foreseeable future. So I'm just going to use this time to talk about my experience so far on Dragon Quest V.
oh man,
And before I get into my feelings on Dragon Quest V, I um I do think that like just from my experience, my personal experience of talking to people who love Dragon Quest and talking about like, oh, what are your favorite Dragon Quests? And like we've had this discussion of like, oh, like what are the best Dragon Quest games? And it's like, oh, 3, 5, 8, 11, depending on who you ask. And I would even go as far to say like in reality, I think it is like 3, 5, 8. I think it is between those three. But again, just from what people have talked to me about and like how they like talk about Dragon Quest V, I've always kind of seen like, oh, five is the best one. Five is the one. Um, and so my feeling about Dragon Quest V,
this draw
uh,
does not give me the confidence that you're loving it.
I am no, no, no. I am 2/3 of the way through the game. Um, and just oh man, see, like here's the thing about Dragon Quest V. If you do not want to hear me talk about Dragon Quest V because you want to save it for yourself, jump like I don't know, scroll forward until you hear us talking about the topic of the show. Because I do want to talk about this game. I want to talk about the spoilers because I think that's like I think it's a necessity. I think it's like required to talk about
There's a
like
few
the,
key spoilers that need to be talked about.
there's a lot of things that this game does that really isn't in other games that is so cool. Or just like unique that like I want to talk about it, but I also want people to like
Experience that
be
firsthand.
yeah, I want them to
Yeah.
experience it themselves if they want to, and if you don't want to, if you want to be spoiled, then continue listening. So, you have been that was a lengthy spoiler warning. Um I like how this game again, I like how they just like try and do something new with the story. I like this idea of how this is a lifelong story where literally the first scene is the hero being born. Um, and then you are a kid and you are like you are with your dad and then you end up going kind of like on your own adventures without permission and then you meet Bianca and like I love Hiro and Bianca. I love them as a couple. I think Bianca is one of the like most charming female like written JRPG characters and that I've played in a while. Um, I like how because like when you're a kid in that game, you don't really get that the vibe as much, but once you get to like your kind of teenage young adult years, like you kind of realize like, oh, she's basically like a countryside girl. She's kind of got like that southern drawl type tone in how she speaks, but she's also like very like peppy, and she's very um upbeat, and
Yeah.
but she's also like knows when to be like very serious, um and like how she kind of struggles with especially like leading up to uh the back half of the second like of your like young adult life or whatever. You can tell that she's like, oh, I really like Hero, but I don't know how to tell him, and like I don't know how to like deal with these emotions. And that was really cool. I really like Bianca. um and I do really like how this is just like uh a like a lifelong journey. I thought it was actually like the way that like the first act ends, pretty crazy, right? Your
Great
dad
stuff.
basically sacrifices himself for you to like to live, but then also like you become a slave basically for like 10 years, and it's just like holy shit, that's crazy. Um and then Harry, who's like the prince of this town that you're in slavery with, uh who was like a little shit when he was a kid. uh you know he he's kind of like your partner for like this kind of part of the game. um and then like Saber, of course, too, your cat tiger homie. uh it's just a game where I like what they're doing with the story. I like how they decided, hey, so this part of the game you're a kid, this part of the game you're like teenager, young adult type thing, and this one is like you're an adult, you're a dad, like that type of thing. And just experiencing like, hey, like I'm gonna help Harry uh take back his kingdom and stuff like that. And then it's like, hey, I need to get married, apparently, to get this to get this. Oh, it's like a Zenithian armor piece, right? It's like one
Yeah,
of those Zenithian armors.
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just like, okay, sure. And then apparently in the DS version, because that's what I've been playing, the older sister is a new optional
Yep.
uh l- choice that you can make, and she's like, you know, uh she's super rude, she's super mean.
I think if you try to romance her, the dad is even like, are
What?
you sure? Like
Are
you
you
don't have
okay?
to. There's these other two are here. Like both of these girls seem to really her. Like are you sure
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm curious if the spouse you choose determines the name of the kids.
I don't believe it impacts the name. It impacts their hair
Hair
color
color, yeah.
because it
That makes
matches the
sense.
mom. Is the
Yep.
idea?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I also forget if there's any impact on their stats. I think there's like maybe some light adjustments based on which one. Um, but no, the
Hmm.
names are. I'm pretty sure the names are set.
Yeah. Uh and so that's cool, like, oh, you're planning a wedding, and then very shortly after, like, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm having a kid, I'm having kids. And then the second time skip is crazy. The second time skip is actually crazy. Where what happens is, for those listening who haven't played this game and don't care about being spoiled, you get petrified, and someone buys you as a lawn ornament and you're just chilling there as a statue for like years. Like what I think it's like 6 or 7 years. Um, so you're technically still like the same age, kind of, right? Like, but it is like yeah, it's when your kids are like 6 or 7 years old, they find you, and then they like, remove the petrification. It's just like, what an incredible way to skip time. Um,
I also just want to highlight real quick that it's with the assistance of your loyal man Sancho, which is it's wild to me that guy's name is still that.
Yeah,
For
that
for
can
listeners who may not know context, Sancho is basically a Spanish term to reference like a man whore. Like that's just what you call like yeah, a Sancho like sleeps with all the women. Like that's your loyal compatriot in
yeah. Yeah. That I didn't know that, but also like I also was like the way that they had him speak with I'm like this feels racist. This
Oh,
feels a little
it's a little
racist.
yeah. This is a very random side tangent. A large reason, I mean, I know that means that because I'm half Mexican, but also because growing up, that was my dog's name, and so I got to yell that
Oh,
out a lot. And in some contexts, it drew eyes.
uh, funny. Um, and yeah, so like that was super interesting. And then you find out that the hero isn't actually the hero. His son is.
Yeah. Well,
His
and
son is the hero.
yes. Well, but because part of the pitch is that the whole game is that your main character is looking for the hero. Like you're trying to find the hero and
Well,
like
so
who it is, and you go ahead and just kind of make one instead.
yeah, and so like I thought that was because that was the thing that was like interesting to me was you get the Zenithian sword very early in the game, very early in the game, but I couldn't equip it, and I was like, why can't I? I was like, oh, I have to like do something. I have to do something in the story to be able to equip it to the hero, and then it's just like, oh, nope, that's not. Because the thing is like, you know, the hero could have been the hero, but he wasn't like awakened or something like
Sure.
that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there's always a classic like you got to earn the right or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, because the thing is like, if I remember correctly, at this point in Dragon Quest history, they don't explain like how you know the hero is the hero. It's just kind of like you
The
just
hero.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of know. So I didn't know if it was like a bloodline thing or well, it is technically in the Erdrick trilogy, but I don't know if it was like a blood thing or if it was like if it's just like a magic thing. No idea. So I was just like, I was in the mindset of like, oh, we just don't realize that the hero is the hero yet. But then when you take the son to that one town and talk to the queen, who's basically like Queen Cleopatra, if really that's what she is. Um, and you find out, oh, your son is the hero, and I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. Um,
Great idea.
so yeah, that was a really cool. I like how it just kind of like defies these expectations that you've had after so many games. Um, and so yeah, I'm so that's like kind of like right where I left off was like learning that like like the son is the hero, and I still have the like the rest of the game, which is like still a good chunk. Like the last act is like the longest. Um, with all that in mind, I still think Dragon Quest 3 is my favorite so far. Um, I I like how they're using like they're doing this as like a life story. I just feel like the kind of sense of adventure and the like the big moments in Dragon Quest 3 hit a lot harder for me than in Dragon Quest 5. Also, I know a lot like for a lot of people this is like a positive for them. I'm not I'm not a huge fan. It's not like I dislike it, but like I would much rather have a party of characters that aren't monsters
Mm-hmm.
than and to be there are points where in and out where like party members will come back in and out, and I'm totally okay with that. Like Saber comes in and out,
Yeah.
Bianca comes in and out, and now you have your kids, so like it's not always the case, but for most of the game, it's kind of like the hero and then three monsters.
Yeah.
And I just wish that was not the case. Like the point, like that very much felt implemented just to be like, we need the hero to have party members during these parts of this story we want to tell.
Yeah, I agree with
Um,
that a little bit. I like the monster thing. That what bothers me about the monster thing in that game is the fact that outside of like going for some very powerful monsters, by endgame it's like you might as well just be using the humans. Like you get your kids and your kids are super strong. And it's like, okay, there was this monster mechanic and it's kind of not as relevant at the end of the game suddenly, because now you actually have characters that are good to use. Yeah, I can get that. I think some people really dig that concept right away, and other people are just sort of like, oh, I kind of wish I had more just people with personalities. It's a give and take
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think it's bad. It's just like I would much prefer
Yeah,
like
it's a preference thing. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Um but yeah, Dragon Quest V, very, very good.
It's good shit.
I really wanna finish it. I'm hoping that like that can be one of my when I have the small breaks that I have while working, I can kind of slowly chip away at it and then finish it however much longer it'll take me to do so. But yeah, so that's what we've been playing. Now we're getting into the topic of the show. And I actually forgot to prep this because I wanted to. Maybe you did it, and maybe you thought of it, and that'd be really cool. But the topic of the show is on the history of the Nintendo Switch, and I thought it would be a good idea to kind of go over like all the kind of major JRPGs and like maybe some other like notable Eastern titles that were well associated with
Sure.
the Switch.
I did not prep that list, but I could probably give you a bunch off the top of my head pretty quickly.
Yeah, no. So we can definitely talk about things because like Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming out this week as well.
Yep.
And that is probably going to be the last big like non-cross-gen Switch JRPG. So it makes sense that this is a good time to do it. This is a good time to do it.
Yeah. Like the only other RPG on the way is Pokemon, and that will probably end up being
probably
cross-gen.
going to be yes,
or
absolutely.
they might just like restrict to the last one because they're not going to figure out optimizing for two systems because it's Game Freak, but or at least the Pokemon company, whoever you want to blame for how Pokemon games are made. Well, do you want to start with what would be like first party, and then we can get into like kind of more second party, third party exclusives, timed exclusives?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because like the Switch is just in general like, without even getting the specific games, it is arguably one of the best platforms for JRPGs, like, just ever. Like, in terms of just the total scope, like, not only the games released for it, but also just how many ports and collections and remasters and just all the stuff that's available in one place. That's handheld, and I love handheld. But yeah, first party, obviously, Fire Emblem is, like, one of the biggest franchises that's underneath Nintendo for a long time. And we got a couple entries on the Switch with Three Houses. It's, pseudo sequel, Three Hopes, Engage. We got a very limited time availability with the English translation of one, which I will be salty about. I don't know why Nintendo handled that the way they did.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have it, so I'm not stressing. But like, that was
So weird, so
weird
bizarre
decision.
For those that don't know, so the original Fire Emblem never came out in the US. We got a remake of it later called Shadow Dragon on the DS, but the original Fire Emblem never came out in the US. For the Switch, they did an English translation that was available digital only, and from the outset they announced it was a limited time thing. Like, you had to buy it while it was available, and that was it. They even had like a special physical collector's edition, but it wasn't a physical copy of the game. It was just a box of cool stuff and then a digital code for the game.
And it's dope.
It is cool. It's a cool thing, but it's just like there's no physical version of this game, and it was only available digitally for like I don't even remember how long it was. Like, was it even a year? It wasn't even a year. It was like 6 months or something.
Oh yeah, it came out in like I want to say I don't even want to say 6 months. I want to say it was like more 3 or 4 months because I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because it was like it came out the same. I'm pretty sure it came out the same day as the collector's edition. And then it went away sometime in December.
Nutso stuff. But yeah, solid franchise all around. Three Houses, great game. A little different from the rest of them, but adding in that kind of calendar system style thing, a la Persona. I always talk about Fire Emblem Houses as being one of my favorite entries and one that I hope they never try to do again, because like I think that was such a great one-off thing to have that mechanic, but I don't want the whole series to go that direction. Engage, fantastic combat. I will leave it at that. and I'm not sure thoughts past that. Um, yeah, good Fire Emblem stuff. Xenoblade, also now one of the, a more recent JRPG franchise for Nintendo, but definitely one of their biggest now. Uh, we now have with X releasing, it's going to be all of it on one platform.
which is super dope. Super
So
dope.
cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, I think Xenoblade probably got the most love from like first party. Well, that and Pikmin. That and Pikmin, like both those games, all of the games, the entire series, mainline series, is on oh, I mean, I don't know if people would consider Xenoblade X to be mainline, but I mean I would.
It has Xenoblade in the name, I think, is what we're going for here. You can
Yeah,
it's its own
yeah. Well,
it's its own timeline. Maybe there's weird
because
cross
there's also like
universe
Hey
things, but
Pikmin, right? And
oh
that's
sure,
not. I don't think people would consider that a traditional like Pikmin game.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, Xenoblade, like that is like this is the platform that got me into Xenoblade. Like I played Xenoblade 2,
A lot of
and
people,
that like yeah, Xenoblade 2 was like my first like big Switch game
yeah,
because I wasn't crazy about Breath of the Wild. I'm still not. And I like Mario, but I wasn't like gnawing at playing Mario Odyssey. But when Xenoblade came out, I'm like, oh, this is my jam. Like this is what I need.
yeah.
And I remember like beating it like during winter break, and I'm pretty sure it was like Christmas Day or something. It was like the very end of December when I beat it. And I just like yeah, I put like 80 hours into that game and it went by like that. It was like
Yeah.
it was so good.
I know Xenoblade,
Uh
like as mixed as I am on two specifically, like we've had these talks before. I cannot like I have to give it credit for like what it did for the Switch as far as building a JRPG audience and for really building up Xenoblade as it is now. Like I like the first Xenoblade, but like the Wii release was a very specific audience. It got a 3DS port that didn't really move the needle at all.
mhm.
Especially because it was a new 3DS exclusive, so you had to get
Yeah, one
like
of the
yeah,
few
yeah,
new 3DS.
like truly exclusive. Like you could not play it on a regular one. Um, and then two comes out, and suddenly the audience just exploded. Right, like that game really is what put the franchise on the map, and it's why we have, a 3 and 1 definitive edition, and now X definitive edition. Like that is the game that has allowed the series to take off. And so I always give it its flowers for that. Like it absolutely deserves praise for that. Um, yeah, it's a great franchise, and the Switch is where all of it lives now.
Yeah. Now, here's something I wanna vibe check on.
Okay.
I don't want to say it's I don't know if I would say it's worse than the 3DS like line of games, but how are we feeling about Pokemon uh on the Switch? Because
Um,
we had Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which I really liked. I
Same.
liked how they kind of implemented that stuff. I actually think that the game doesn't get as much love as it deserves. Um, I like Sword and Shield, despite like my issues with that game. What I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would. Um, Coming off of both Gen 6 and 7 and the Hoenn remakes, which I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we've already talked about how we're not on the same page with Hoenn remakes, but yeah, I was just like, oh man, like I really want them to get this right, and I enjoyed it. Like I still have issues with it, but I think it's like the most fun I had in a Pokemon game since the DS era. Um, and then yeah, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. I liked it for what it is. I don't think it like got uh the treatment that Sinnoh fans were hoping for, a la like Heart Gold, Soul Silver. But I still enjoyed it. I like, I it made me appreciate Sinnoh a little bit more because like I know that Sinnoh is really, really beloved. And I, you know, it just for some reason didn't hit for me the way it did others.
Sure.
Granted, I haven't played Platinum, and I know that like a lot of the really good shit is in Platinum
A lot of
specifically.
the good stuff's in platinum. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
also
yeah,
like that's my beef with because I'm not happy about Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, because I was trying to be upbeat about it when we first like saw it, because I some people were like mad at the chibi designs, that kind of stuff, and I was like,
I
who
liked
gives,
it.
yeah, I was like, who gives a shit? Like, great, like that actually feels more like the older games to me. Cool. Like I was like really hoping for some good stuff with that, and then as we learned more and found out that for whatever reason they were like, oh, by the way, none of the enhancements from Platinum are going to be in this. We're just going to have this be more based directly off of original Diamond and Pearl. I went, why? Like, there's already a game that fixed, updated, and made a lot of stuff better, and you're just going to ignore that? Because, like,
Yeah,
even when you look at some of the other remakes, like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, those pull a lot from Crystal. Like,
yeah,
those have elements from that, and because it was
and
good
and then
stuff.
and the best part, in my opinion, of the Hoenn remakes was the Delta episode, which is basically the like Emerald stuff,
Yeah.
right? Where and I thought that was like even though I have like issues with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, like I didn't hate the game. I just
Yeah.
I just don't think it did the region like justice as a remake
Sure.
personally.
Yeah,
And so I enjoyed aspects of that game.
I would say, like, for me, as far as Pokemon on Switch, I have enjoyed some of their side ventures, I would say, like, more than mainline. I like the idea behind uh, Arceus. I have to think every time before I say it out loud because I'm going to say Arceus. Like, even though that game was rough around the edges and it had its problems, I enjoyed a lot of the ideas going on there, and I'm looking forward to ZA for similar reasons.
Mhm.
Um, I agree with you. I liked Let's Go a lot. I think it needed a little bit more in some places, but like that's also why I
Mhm.
wanted a sequel a lot, because I was like, there's a lot of good ideas here. Let's just like fix what needs fixing and then get a
And put it
sequel.
all in Johto. Put it
Yeah,
all in
exactly. Yeah, put it
Johto.
all in Johto. Johto keeps winning.
Yes,
That
yes.
hasn't happened. Uh, the main line this time around, I like Sword and Shield. I didn't love it. I think it was an improvement. I personally enjoyed it more than Sun and Moon and Gen 6 as well. Like, I do think it was a step up from 3DS for me.
Yeah.
Scarlet Violet, I did not really care for. I know everyone says that the final zone is like the best part of it, and that's like that's worth getting to. I couldn't bring myself to. Like, I kept trying to put time in that game, and I just didn't like it. And then,
I
as
haven't
I
gotten there
said,
yet. I'm
yeah,
nodding, but I'm not. I'm like, I haven't played the game, so
yeah. And
to be
then Gen
clear.
4 again, like the Gen 4 remakes, I was not happy with their choices on that. And to be fair, as much as I did like Sword and Shield, that game did also have its own controversies. I mean, this was at the beginning of what did people call it? Not Pokedex Gate, but like where it was where they got rid of the national decks. You can't bring all the Pokemon forward anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big thing in Sword and Shield, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it was an ongoing thing, like this whole gen. It was loudest then because that was when they very first did the cutoff of being like, hey, guess what? You may have had every Pokemon from this past gen, you can't bring them all forward. National Dex is dead. Enjoy.
Yeah.
That was not something a lot of people liked conceptually.
I hope that is something that they can fix in like the first like switch to specific Pokemon game, because like it's going to be a notably more powerful system. So like at this point, and then like at that point, it's like y'all have no excuse. Like
I don't think it was even ever an issue of power. I think it was just time
memory
investment.
or anything like that.
I
Really?
don't think there was any I'm pretty
Mm,
sure it was literally Pokemon Company just being like, we're not going to take the time to make this many Pokemon in this game. So here we go.
wow. Okay.
I've never seen a cited reason as far as like Switch limitations. I would be very interested in seeing and learning about that if that is the case, but I personally have not seen that as an
Mhm.
argument for why they did that.
I mean, like, outside of them just being like, we don't want to do this. That was like my immediate like, oh, it's probably because the Switch is just not a powerful enough console, and they can't like put all of the Pokemon in the game or something like that.
Yeah.
But both kind of makes sense to me, but like also like they did not specify
Yeah. I don't
exactly
think they
why.
were ever very open about it.
No.
Yeah, I think Pokemon in general for this system has been a little bit of a mixed bag. I wouldn't say that it's all bad. Like, I think there are highs. I think there were some good stuff that came out of it. But we've had talks about this in the past of how just Pokemon isn't what we loved, right? Like the series, like really like Gen 6 on. In your case, I know you always say like Gen 3 on even, just doesn't really do it like it used to. Um, yeah, that's how I feel about it with this gen. Sword and Shield was fine. I like some of the side games, but I do hope there is change coming to the franchise because it is absolutely stagnating a bit.
What about like what about the non-mainline Pokemon games? Like we got a remake of the first Mystery Dungeon.
True.
We got Pokken, a port of Pokken, which I still feel like should have gotten a bit more love than what it ended up getting. Um, Even though, admittedly, I didn't really play Pokken, but then there's also like Pokemon Unite, which I love Pokemon Unite.
Yeah.
I love Pokemon Unite. If I didn't play Overwatch regularly, Pokemon Unite would be my game. Pokemon Unite would be my go-to like daily hop in,
Like
hop out
multiplayer, yeah.
multiplayer game.
Yeah.
100%.
I
It's
don't really mess
really
with that
good.
stuff. So like that's yeah. For me, I
But
don't really have much to say on that. But like
But that's the thing, Kevin. It's just like, because we've never actually like sat down and played games together.
yeah.
Funny enough, but like, I do not like MOBAs. I do not like MOBAs.
Yeah.
Pokemon Unite was able to like just introduce that system in a very straightforward way, where it's just like, hey, you have your normal attack, you have two abilities, you have your Unite move, your ultimate move, and you have an item to use. That is it. You
Yeah.
have 5 tools at your disposal that are like very straightforward, and it makes the game just very approachable
Sure.
in a way that like, League of Legends and like other MOBAs just I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
this is insane. Like,
Well, and to clarify my lack of interest, it's not because it's a MOBA. It's just because
oh, okay.
I don't put time into like multiplayer focused stuff. Like I just
That's
don't.
fair. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
if something
I do
has
that.
like a side mode or like couch in some form, like outside of fighters, fighting is like the only genre I play that's like do match types over and over again. Everything
Sure.
else, I don't. I just have never had the attention span for. Like I'd rather get to my next single player RPG story or whatever.
Sure. No, that I mean, I'm more or less the same in that boat, but uh I do like certain multiplayer games.
Yeah.
But I do primarily, especially because my favorite genre is JRPGs, it's just like, yo, I gotta play I gotta put in time to play other stuff.
Yeah.
Um so I'm trying to think about if there's any other Pokemon games that I mean, because there's like Cafe Mix.
Cafe Mix. What
Uh
was the kind of voxely looking one that was also a mobile game and like it was definitely a lower budget venture that I don't think did super great. What was it called?
I have no idea.
Hold on.
Absolutely. Well, if it's a mobile game, we're talking about the Switch, or is it on the Switch too?
And that's what I'm saying. It was on the Switch and it was on mobile.
Oh,
Like,
Pokemon Quest.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a cool game too. Like, it wasn't. It was kind of like a game for you to kind of check in and like build stuff over time, if I remember correctly. But still cool that it existed.
Yeah, it
But
happened.
yeah, yeah, I think that like
Oh, and
for
Detective
me,
Pikachu.
oh yeah, Detective Pikachu,
Yeah.
right? Detective Pikachu
Did
Returns.
not play Return.
Um, yeah, I haven't even played the original, but like, but Detective Pikachu Returns is basically like the movie. Like a lot of plot stuff is
Right.
more or less the movie, which is a interesting decision there. Um, but yeah, like you know, uh, for mainline Pokemon didn't do a whole lot for me, and I think the things we're kind of on the same page were like the things that we liked were like the least liked things, the least successful things. But yeah, for me, Pokemon Unite was a very unexpected surprise, and I still hop in to that game when I can. I do not play that game remotely as much as I would like to, but it is a very good time. Um, Now thoughts on the lack of Mario this generation, like specifically like the 3D 2D
So,
Mario.
yeah.
We got one 2D new 2D Mario and one new 3D Mario.
Well, it's really funny you say that because I was just thinking we should also talk about Mario, but I was coming from it from the standpoint of can we talk about how great the system was for Mario RPGs
Oh,
specifically, right? Because
yes,
like
yes.
we got a remake of Super Mario RPG, We got a remake, A Thousand Year Door. We got the ability to
Yes.
play Paper Mario through the N64 NSO. We got the ability to do. They did another Brothers, which I know didn't do. Like I heard Brothership wasn't great. Different dev, didn't get received as well. We got another new Paper
But that's the
Mario.
thing, though.
Like
The dev behind Brothership was the dev behind Octopath Traveler too.
it's support dev, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it
Um,
wasn't Team Asano. It was what is it, Acquire? Is that
it
the
was
name?
Acquire. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Acquire.
Yeah.
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 So it was like different leadership, but like
Her.
same
Yeah.
develop team.
And also, while not first party technically, but I mean it is a Mario game. The frickin' Rabbids games with Ubisoft, like those were solid,
Yes,
like interesting tactical RPGs.
bro.
Like Mario
Mario
RPG
and
specifically did really great. Like I think this
Mario
system.
Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle was so good, so damn good. And then Sparks of Hope, like I didn't finish it, but because it's just there's so many games, but I enjoyed the hell out of what I played, and I want to get back to it. I want to finish it, and it's like that's the thing with me and like a lot of the kind of first party Nintendo games is that I really want to stream these games because like it's just like it's that casual because I like to stream,
Mhm.
but I also know like what games I can play while like being able to socialize and like not just like hone in,
Sure.
and most of them are Nintendo games. And so like but I haven't been able to stream a lot, so I haven't really gotten to a lot of those games. And I a few weeks like probably about a month ago I was thinking about like I really want to get back on this Mario and Luigi train because I years ago I started doing like a series playthrough and I played uh Superstar Saga, which is one of my favorite games ever. Like I love that game. That's like probably my favorite Mario anything game. Like I love that. Or well, 3D World, but Superstar Saga is like right there. And then I played Partners in Time, and like that was such a disappointing sequel for me.
Mm.
I don't know how like the general consensus of Partners in Time is, but I was just so disappointed. And so it really just like kind of put
Not
the wind out of my sail.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I know Bowser's Inside Story is like one of if not the best,
Yeah,
but
that's another one a lot of people love. I feel like it's usually Superstar Saga or Bowser's Inside Story that's like the like your number one is what most
yeah,
people tend to bring
but
up.
oh man, I really want I just don't really I'm not in the mood
Yeah,
because Partners in Time was so disappointing.
I get you.
But yeah, so I'm just but then I played all the Paper Marios and like had a really good time with that. Like Origami King, we didn't talk about Origami King.
Yeah.
And I think, while the combat outside of boss battles, where it was basically pointless, the boss battles were really fun and the story was really good. And I had a really good time with Origami King.
Yeah. And then even going back to like 2D and 3D, like is the consensus that it was like there wasn't much? Because I feel like we normally don't get a ton of Mario games. Like we get a ton of Mario games in general, games called Mario.
Yeah.
But like for a single system, I realized that they weren't everyone's favorite, like top to bottom. But like we got Odyssey, which was like a full-fledged 3D. We got 3D Land with Bowser's Fury, which added new content, and like also let's be fair, like every Wii U game just needed to make its way to the Switch with how that all went, all the good ones especially. We got Wonder, which was a great surprise for 2D Mario fans and just Mario fans in general. Like I think it was great.
Okay.
And I mean, like, sure, that's like 3, but like that's a game every 2.5 years.
I think that like Odyssey came out, and Odyssey again I've only played a bit of it. I've not played a whole lot of it. And I enjoyed it for what it is. Like I totally like get why people love it. Like
Yeah.
totally get that. And I love 3D World, so when that got ported, I was just like super annoying about that game because that was also like along with that release date, we got the red Mario Switch.
Yep.
As well. And I was just like, yo, I had the red Mario Switch, I had the Super Mario. I bought 2 of the anniversary 3D World shirts. I have one, and then I have a new one in box if I ever need it because when do we get Super Mario 3D World merch? We don't. And so like I have the Super Mario 3D World hat as well with the Cat Mario on it. Like I bought all of the 3D World merch when they did that game. Uh, and it's still my favorite Mario, like 3D Mario game period. Like one of the best video game soundtracks of all time, in my opinion. Um, and like I love that, but it was also a port.
Sure.
And like I'm trying to like dismiss it because like I'm so happy. I'm still surprised they didn't finish it, but like I'm so happy that every mainline 3D Mario game except for Galaxy 2 is all on the Switch. Like that's something I'd like never thought Nintendo would
Well,
have the balls to do.
if you track down a physical copy at this point, at least.
Another situation, I bought 2 copies. I was like, I'm not fucking around. I'm not fucking around. I'm like, if I lend this 3D All Stars copy to a friend and for some reason they lose that shit, I have a new copy. Like I like, you know, we talked about game collecting on here before and like how we're like, oh, I buy my physical games with the intention to play them. There are some instances where you have to buy more than one copy just in case, you know what I mean, y'all? Because for those that don't know, 3D All Stars, which was 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy 1, they ported them. They weren't like great ports, but better than nothing.
Yeah.
And
There was a way to play them.
yeah, exactly. But it was a temporary release digitally. And so when the physically, so like, but they did do physical copies. And so I bought multiple because I was not playing around. um, and so now you can only play those games if you have a physical copy. You can't buy them digitally anymore.
Yeah.
Which is another thing similar to the Fire Emblem thing. This one, while still super frustrating, makes a little bit more sense in the sense, a little bit more in the context of how Nintendo acts as a company.
Sure. One, especially because like some of those games came back, right? Like Mario 64 is now as part of like Nintendo Switch Online. If we eventually get GameCube games, we'll probably see Sunshine like show up there. The Fire Emblem thing's weird because like we never got that game. Like that was the only way to ever get it in English. So it's so bizarre they did that. But yeah, like I see what you're saying. Like 3D Land was a port, even though it did have some new content because the whole Bowser's Fury thing was like a unique new thing, but it wasn't huge. But like also like how many mainline Mario games do we usually see a gen? Like what did we have the most with 2 Galaxies and the 3D games? The 2D 3D games?
Yeah, like the more that you like put it into perspective, like you're not wrong. I just feel like that the Switch cycle was so long and
it is longer. I mean, 8 years is
and it came out in the first year.
Yeah.
That like it just like I thought that there would be another Mario game before the end of the Switch, but maybe they were just like, oh, we're so close to getting to the Switch 2. Let's just wait. Let's just make it a cross-gen release. Like, because you think there's going to be a 3D Mario this year, right? By the end of the year.
I think it's extremely likely. I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm a betting man on it, but like that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, like right now.
Yeah.
Because right now, like we know that we're getting like Metroid Prime 4. I'm expecting Metroid Prime 4 to be a launch title for the Switch 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that, but
it's a very common theory and it's one I don't fully agree with, but like it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Yeah, because it's just one of those things where so many people are going to buy the Switch 2 just because it's the Switch 2, and they're going to want something to play. And Metroid Prime, Metroid, like, you know, Metroid Dread was like the best-selling Metroid game by a notable amount, sure. But like, I still would say that Metroid is still one of Nintendo's smaller franchises, and it's just like, hey, what do we get more sales from? Releasing it day and date with the Nintendo Switch 2. And I think that really that is just determined on whether that game is ready. And I think it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like, what else are we going to release first party? Like, we're definitely due for a Fire Emblem game. We're definitely
due for a Fire Emblem. Yeah.
Mario
Kart 9, obviously.
Yeah, Mario Kart 9, and then
or 10,
we're due,
depending on how you want to count them.
Yeah. And then we're due for a 3D Mario, in my opinion. Because you know, it's not even that Wonder like what has been far out enough, or anything like that. I also think that like Wonder. I know that people liked Wonder. The people that played Wonder really liked it, but I also feel like for a new 2D Mario game, that game kind of came and went through my lens, my perspective.
I mean, it had a larger. I mean, the thing is, it's the only thing it's had to compete against in that sphere for a long time is like the new Super Mario Brothers games, which I'd say
mhm,
those came and went even harder, right? Like
yeah,
those, I feel like those were always kind of like lightly even disdained by some fans because it was just like cool new Super Mario Brothers, whatever. Like what's the next thing, you know? Wonder. Like I agree with you. I do feel like chatter about Wonder died a little faster than I would have expected it to, but
yeah.
the initial reception to it being revealed, I mean, there was a lot of hype and enjoyment out of like, oh shit, like we're actually getting a 2D Mario that's like an interesting looking new 2D Mario. Like this feels like the first thing since like Super Mario World that's actually interesting.
Yeah, and that also like kind of introduced the new kind of model for Mario too, right? Because like
Mhm.
in Mario Kart 9, like they made him a little bit more like chubby, a little bit more like in the face, like things like that, which is if I remember correctly, it's based off his Wonder design.
Yeah, maybe I don't know what the full logic on that is because it also reminds me a little bit of the Super Mario RPG uh
Oh,
update like
sure. Yeah,
redesign
yeah.
too because that also was trying to go with like they were trying to capture how Mario looked in the older 2D games and then adapt it to something that still had those slightly more awkward proportions. So it's not quite chibi, but like it is like a bigger head relative to body and yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so I think we're gonna get a new Mario this year. And just like across all of the Mario stuff, which is just like such a wide catalog, at that point. Like it was great, like uh the Mario Party games. I think all of the Mario Party games were good. Um again, Paper Mario was really good. Uh and we talked about the RPGs already,
I think
and they killed it there.
I think and I'm not an expert on these ones, so maybe I'm just off base here. I think the sports ones didn't get quite as much love this time around. Like I know a lot of people like I wasn't very happy with
Yeah,
Strikers. That's like the one I do care about because I really like Strikers back on
yeah,
GameCube and Wii.
yeah,
But like there was
man.
also tennis and golf, and I feel like none of those really generated that much hype this cycle.
So yeah, so tennis, people were super excited about tennis, and then tennis didn't really meet the expectations that they were hoping for. Golf is awesome.
Hmm.
Golf is awesome if you're playing with friends. If you're playing with friends, golf is super good.
I mean, it better
Um,
be because that's why Camelot hasn't done a new Golden Sun, right?
yeah,
That's why.
yeah. And then Battle League, yeah, like dude, man, I was so,
Yeah,
dude, like this, it was the one like okay, I would say like the one of two pipe dreams I had during the Switch era that actually came true.
yeah.
Where
A
I
lot
was
of
just
people.
like,
So many
yeah,
people
yeah, I was
wanted
like,
that series to come back.
please, please, Mario Strikers, and then it happened, and then like they showed off, and like
That monkey's paused.
even from the reveal though, like I was just like, this kind of, I don't know if this is really doing it for me because like it was they have like the armor, right, like the
Yeah.
kind, and it's just like I don't know about this. I was obviously excited and optimistic, but I was also just like, I gotta like kind of remove my bias and be like, there's something off here. And sadly, yeah, it just did not really meet the expectations there. Um, oh, also the Mario and Sonic game, the last one they did
The Olympic
was
ones?
good. Yeah, it was good. The London
Never
Olympics, I
played them.
believe it was.
Yeah.
It was good, or Tokyo maybe, I don't know. It was good. I that was like one of the first games I reviewed, and I had a good time with that game. Now I want to mention one game, and it's like goes under a franchise technically, but like I think that this is like the most underrated game, first party game on the Switch, new game on the Switch, and that's Luigi's Mansion 3.
I knew you were going to say it. Uh, I wish I had played it so I could talk about this. I need to. I know. I just saw. Oh God! I wish you could. I wish the audience listening could see the way Cam's face just dropped right now in reaction to that
Here's the thing,
because it's
no,
been on my
I
to-do
can't
list. Like
I
I know
can't
I've
judge you
heard
too
nothing but
hard.
incredible things, and it's just a thing with me that I just have not like taken the time to play it yet. I keep meaning to. My brother has the physical copy that I need to just borrow off him to play it. Uh,
I
I've heard nothing but incredible things.
I
I
can't
haven't
judge you.
played it.
I can't judge you too hard because I didn't finish it. But the only reason I didn't hold on, but the only reason I didn't finish it was because I was playing it with my ex-wife,
Ah,
and
yeah,
so
timing.
I stopped. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
just we just never got back to it.
Sure.
This is when things were still good.
Yeah.
This was when things were still
Right.
good. We
But
just never got
it
back
feels
to it.
weird to resume then. Yeah, I get why that's a little
And so
awkward.
like
Yeah.
at this, it's not even awkward. It's, at this point, I just need to restart it,
Yeah.
and I just need to play it. But like when I was playing, I was like, man, this game is so cool, so creative, so funny. I love the vibes. Like I remember when I played it at E3, which is one of the best Nintendo booths they ever have done. Where it was basically like all of the assistants were bellhops. Like
Yeah.
so good. And I was just like, oh, this game is going to have the sauce when it comes out. And yeah, and I've played a decent chunk of it, and I thought it was incredible. I genuinely think it is one of the best. Like I'm not gonna go as far to say like that it should be in this like next to like Breath of the Wild and like Mario Odyssey in the discussion because I don't want people to like uh try and assassinate me. But that game is a plus. Like it is
I've heard
it's
nothing but
absolutely incredible.
yeah, I've heard nothing but incredible things. And one thing that I will attest that I can say, just because it doesn't require playing it to see it, one of the best looking games on the Switch. Like
Yes, it's
optimization and how
stunning.
gorgeous it is. Like it's
Stunning.
incredible how that game looks running on Switch hardware.
Yes, absolutely stunning. So I just needed to shout it out while it was on my mind.
Also, another Mario game we forgot, and technically is another mainline entry in a sense, Maker 2. That was in 2019.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Super Mario Maker 2. I have it, and like because you know I have my Wii U still. I have very few games that I own, but I do have Super Mario Maker 1 because there are actual OG Nintendo created levels in that game.
Yes.
Mario Maker 2, there's not, but
And there are some
it's
assets
like-
that are unique too, right? There was stuff they didn't bring back from 1 into 2.
I don't know because I have not played it yet. Because like I eventually want to do a like whole Mario like play through all the main like 2D 3D Mario games. So that game I bought it at PAX East like a few years ago. Brand new. It had the cardboard box that it comes with and everything, and I got it for like $50, like really good deal. Because it was like, you know, when like Wii U games were already shooting up in price.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of the few Wii U games I own, and there's only a few that I will ever own, because most of them are on Switch now. Speaking of which, one of the few games that isn't on the Wii U from a franchise that had a pretty notable presence on the Switch, Kirby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we haven't gotten Rainbow Curse is the Wii U game.
Yeah. Well, that's because it was also one of the games that relied on the Wii U pad in like an actual way. So it's
Oh,
weird
really? I
that-
did not know that.
I believe so. Yeah, I think it followed the same style as what they did with the 3DS ones, where you use the tablet to like do things, like you draw things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I still need to buy a copy of that for my Wii U. But I want to talk about Kirby because like Kirby had a pretty notable presence on the Switch.
Yeah.
Forgotten Land, really good game from what I've played so far. Because I remember when it came out, buddy of mine, Michael Hyam, he loves Kirby, and he's like the biggest Kirby Forgotten Land fan that I know. Like he says like, oh, it's one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm like, really? And then I played like the first like couple of worlds or whatever, and I'm like, damn, like it's genuinely really good. Like I did not expect Kirby to have the sauce like this. Not saying that there aren't like some really great 2D Kirby games. Like you know, we got Return to Dreamland, which is really beloved. Kirby is another series I really, really want to get into as well. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with that game too. And then, you know, we start off with Kirby Star Allies, which is pretty whatever. But Return to Dreamland and like Forgotten Land, like those were really great Kirby games.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a ton to add to that because I just agree. Like Forgotten Land is great, and we didn't really have a whole lot else other than Star Allies, which I mean it was fun swapping food all the time. I always thought it was silly. It is interesting.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was
No, please,
just
go ahead.
like thinking of Kirby and how we did get some rep there. It is interesting to think what franchises kind of sat out the Switch. Like Star Fox didn't
Well,
exist
yeah,
like at
like
all. But it
yeah.
also like we got remasters and ports, but like nothing new for Donkey Kong either. Which part of it is because of the whole how long Metroid Prime 4 has been taking.
Mm.
Because that's Retro Studio. For people that know, Retro Studios made the last Donkey Kong games, the later ones at least, because obviously Rare isn't with Nintendo anymore. And they also work on Metroid Prime, and so Prime 4 has just been what they've been doing like this whole generation. Along with they did work on the remasters, but still, no new Donkey Kong Country. Damn it.
Yeah, and I know people really, really love Tropical Freeze. I did
Yeah,
play that game. I played it all the way through. I personally like wasn't wowed by that game. I thought it was good.
yeah,
But it didn't like blow me away like a lot of people kind of brought the expectations to be.
sure.
Um and so like, I'm not itching for like a new Donkey Kong game anytime soon. I'm very much uh more on the Team Metroid side, but which we touched upon it a little bit, but Metroid Dread was a game that I was like super interested in, and it was the game that like many other Nintendo like new releases on Switch encouraged me to finally play through the Metroid series. I never played any of them in a real way.
Yeah,
And so I played Zero Mission, I played Super Metroid on my Analog Pocket or Analog Super NT, which that game is absolutely incredible.
oh yeah,
Totally understand why it's considered one of the greatest games ever made.
incredible.
I remember fighting, I think it's like the lizard boss or whatever, like the alligator boss,
Great.
and I found out on my own just naturally the secret way of just insta killing him. And I was like, I was on stream when it happened, and I was just so confused. I'm like, what just happened? And someone said like, oh yeah, that's like the secret way of killing him. Like, and 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 I was just and I like and then I popped off. I was like, let's go. I thought it was just super cool. Like just
Yeah,
like how naturally you're able to find those kind of secrets in that game. So yeah, I had a good time with that. I played Fusion. I liked Fusion. Not super crazy about the linearity in Fusion, but that was a fun game. Samus Returns is fine. Like
it's
that
yeah,
was definitely that was a low point for sure.
yeah. Well,
And then
did you play the original or did you play both original and 3DS?
I just played the remake. That's all
Okay.
I
Oh,
played.
the remake. Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then yeah, and then so I was super ready for Dread. I was super ready for it, and that game just didn't really do it. It wasn't what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It just
I
wasn't.
I like Dread a lot. I think Dread suffers a little bit from because like I did enjoy Dread a lot. I think there was some really great stuff in it. I enjoyed the plot beats in it. I think their use of the parry mechanic is kind of I don't think it's a great fit. I know some people dig it, but I'm just not into it. Um, the thing I think Dread suffers from is similar to what I think Mario Odyssey suffers from, where there's this decision to make progression through the main game very friendly. Like, not as friendly in Dread. Like, Dread does have its spikes here and there, more so than Odyssey, at least, because Odyssey is just very easy to get through the game. And then it puts all the challenging, interesting, like, okay, now you have to find creative uses for your powers in collecting power ups that are at like the very end of the game that you also don't really need to get. Like, they're basically there just to have like end game stuff to do if you want to push yourself. And like, that's cool, but it also would have been nice to just have some of those interesting creative uses brought in earlier. Because the so much of the really interesting like ways of using the power-ups and traversal abilities doesn't just never comes up in a way you have to deal with
Mm.
unless you decide to be a completionist. And also as a result, I think the overall map design in that game is just not one of the better ones. Like I like Dread a lot overall, but if I'm thinking in terms of like how satisfying that map is compared to like Super Metroid or any of the number of Metroidvanias that are out there now, uh, not actually one of my top favorites.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me was just like the robot stuff, like trying to get past the robots. That just like didn't really that wasn't like a fun challenge for me.
Mm.
That was just like oh my god, I have to deal with this. I don't want to have to deal with this. Um and so I still haven't ended up finishing it. I will eventually, but I think like after playing three like like really good Metroid games, one like solid game, and then like getting to Dread, like I think like I Dread is like a better game than Samus Returns, but it didn't have like this like one big thing that just like really just kind of turned me off. That I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to take a break.
Time to
But
hop onto other M.
I do want to play the other M.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to play it.
Yeah.
I
Play
want. Yeah, yeah. That's why I have a Wii U. I have a Wii U to play a bunch of Wii games that I've
Yeah.
never played before. That is a work in progress for sure.
So I mean, if we're making our way through all the, because I thought we were going to just do RPGs, but if we're going to make our way through all of Nintendo, I mean, we have to make our way back to Zelda. Like we haven't talked about Zelda yet, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are we gonna say about what do we need to say about Zelda?
Well, I mean, like significant shift, right? Like I mean, we could talk
Yeah,
there's all the secondary games and like side stuff. We got more Warriors games. We got uh the Zelda title end of last year. But like the two big ones, basically almost bookending the Switch, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, totally different approach for Zelda. And I mean, it's as overall celebrated as they are and how well they sell. There is a bit of like a fandom schism a little about it. You know, there are people who like them, but are also kind of like, can I get something like the older ones though? Can we do that still? Why does that have to die? What's going on?
yeah. I mean, I think I've said it before. I'm not a Zelda person. Never
Damn,
have. Probably never will. I
damn.
just I didn't grow up with Zelda. I just didn't, and it's unfortunate, but that's just my reality. Um, and so like I played Wind Waker, and I thought it was good. You know, I enjoyed my time with it, and then Breath of the Wild was like the next one.
Yeah,
Um, and I just don't like Breath of the Wild. Like I gave it I gave it several shots. And even like the last time I gave it a shot before I tried to beat it before Tears of the Kingdom, I could not get it done in time. And I do want to go back and finish it, but even then, like just from playing the game, I was just like, I can understand I can understand the viewpoints of like its world design and like and the like the level design and those type of game design choices, but then like when you kind of implement the other things that like make an open world interesting, that doesn't feel present in the game. Like it's like you got like the layout, but then you don't have like the intricacies for me.
Hmm.
Like I think like the physics system in that game incredible,
Yeah.
and like
Well,
the way that people can like manipulate the physics in that game
yeah,
with the because of like the time stop powers and things like that,
sure.
really cool to see.
Yeah,
um but I just like the minute to minute gameplay for me just wasn't engaging. I genuinely think the combat feels bad. Like I don't think the combat feels good in that game. And there's just a lack of variety of enemies. Like I just I just don't think that that game is like fun to play. Um,
interesting. I did not know that.
I
I didn't
know.
know you had those views on it. No, like I,
Oh,
'cause I,
really?
yeah, I didn't know
Oh,
you felt that way. Yeah, I don't
oh,
think
I
we haven't
talked.
talked about Zelda before, so this is all news to me.
Oh, wow. I need to step it up on Twitter then, because
Yeah,
like, well, because I always talked shit
yeah.
about
No, because I
Breath
like
of the Wild.
personally, like because for me, I like Breath of the Wild. Um, I am more lukewarm on Tears of the Kingdom. I'm one of
See, I'm the opposite.
Yeah, no, I don't really I like Tears. Like it's like I feel positive on both if I have to give like a thumbs up or thumbs down. But if I'm putting them in the context of like how I like Zelda games, I like Breath more than Tears, and I don't
Interesting.
really rank either of them that high on like the overarching. Like I get why they're a big deal, and I get why they've grown the audience they have. But I like if I'm looking back at my experiences of playing Zelda games on the Switch, I might have actually had more fun playing Skyward Sword Remaster than either of those.
Hmm.
I definitely am a bit more of a fan of like the older style personally. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think that the older style of Zelda in general is definitely more my jam. But I like Tears of Kingdom a lot.
Yeah,
I think it was able to make a lot of compromises without completely removing itself of like what people a lot of people were attracted to about Breath of the Wild. I think it fixed a lot of things where it's just like uh where I felt like that there were a lot of open fields in Breath of the Wild with nothing going on.
sure.
And I think that they compromised that. I think they compromised like with the kind of new systems and being able to like how you build things. And I loved like how vertical the map was with all the sky islands.
Yeah.
And then like the under like I didn't even get to the point, and I played like 30 hours of that game. I didn't even get to the point where I even tried to approach the underground stuff.
Oh, I went there
But when
like
I found
immediately.
but when I found when that shit existed, I'm like, this is super cool. Like, Tears of the Kingdom. I want to go back and I want to finish that game. I had a really good time with it. Um, but yeah, and so uh, that's kind of like where I am with Zelda. And they've said that this is kind of what the future of Zelda is going to be, and like, can't really blame them.
Yeah.
Considering how much those games sell compared to the old games.
Oh no, for sure. I agree. Like I'm not gonna be one of the people where I'm like Zelda was always better this way. Like it's more of just I know what I prefer, and I lament a bit that that's probably not gonna be what we get in the future.
Yeah.
But I absolutely understand like pivoting harder into what this current formula is because it's working clearly.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and hopefully, like I think the most I can hope for is like they keep doing kind of like the side game top down thing they've been doing lately. Like I think the experiment they did with Echoes of Wisdom was like really neat. I liked the Link's Awakening
Remake.
remaster and
Yeah.
like or remake, and like I would hope to see a similar treatment for the Oracle games at some point because I love those ones. Yeah, like I hope they keep the top-down style alive as like a side series at this point because that would at least help satisfy my personal craving a little more.
Yeah, and one thing that's also worth mentioning too that's that I feel like doesn't get a lot of love, and like, admittedly, I want to play this game more, and I feel like every time I play it, it's just like I don't know, and maybe I'm just like not a 2D, like maybe I'm not a 2D Zelda guy, I guess. I don't know. It feels weird to say, but I enjoy like the premise of it is Cadence of Hyrule.
Oh yeah,
Like Cadence of Hyrule is a really cool concept, and it was one of the first times we actually saw like Nintendo allow like give their IP to like an indie studio and like, hey, like try this, do this.
I was
And
so excited to like hoping they would do that more, and then
yeah,
they just haven't
and they
like at
didn't.
all. It was just kind of
But
like a
at the
wow.
very least, they were willing to do a physical print later. So
Yes,
that was cool that they did that. So I got that on my shelf. But yeah, like Zelda is a series I'm very much like never really got into, and part of it now, especially as I'm older, it's like a lot of those games have big ass spiders, and I'm not fucking with that.
that's fair. Skulltulas are a little yeah. Not everyone loves
Yeah,
them.
nightmare fuel, nightmare fuel. So like, but I do want to at the very least play um all of the 2D Zelda games. Um, that is another thing like on my long list of series that I want to do. And I do want to go back to Cadence of Hyrule and like and play that. I just think I need to like kind of get used to the vibe that 2D Zelda games bring.
Sure.
But yeah, so but yeah, let's go well, okay, I have one more question, and then we can get into like some of the more notable like third party stuff.
Yeah.
Did you play Pikmin 4?
No.
Okay, so you have nothing to really say on Pikmin?
I got nothing on Pikmin. Pikmin is
Okay.
a blind spot for me. It's like I've picked them up before. I think the one I
Mhm.
put the most time into was like 3.
Mhm.
I never. It's just a franchise I never really got particularly into, and
Okay.
I have nothing interesting to say about it.
Okay, yeah, that's a series that I like. Now that I'm done with Paper Mario, like Pikmin is like the next one I want to do. Like Pikmin is because like I've I'm just so curious about it. I'm
Sure.
curious if it's my jam, and now that all of them are on Switch, it's like no time like the present.
Yeah,
Um,
I sometimes feel like I should just pick up the first one and like really give it an honest try, because the times I've tried the series, it just isn't for my brain, as far as I can tell.
Hmm.
But
Interesting, because like
yeah,
it's kind of like a strategy game, right? Like it's
yeah, but like also, I don't really play many strategy games that are like just about
not
strategy.
tactics. Yeah, not
Well,
tactics.
and not yeah, not like I like I give me a grid. I like grids.
Hmm. Hmm.
But like also a lot of the tactics games I enjoy are the ones that are also like, you know, super over the top fantasy shit with political intrigue and, you know, I need wizards and stuff. Like I don't like I don't you know
I need wizards. I need magic.
yeah, like I mean
That's
like I
funny.
don't know. I need wizards and shit going on.
Um. So yeah. So yeah, I want to talk about some notable third parties, and one that like I was looking at a list of like all the big RPGs. And
Mhm.
one that came to my mind that I kind of like forgot about that like really has had a pretty major presence on the Switch from like the early years and still to more recently. That's the Mana series.
Oh yeah. No, that I
Yeah,
mean that was a
because
big thing for me. Was like seeing Mana
the
come
collection
back.
of mana. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like so God, what E3 was that? 2019, 18? 18
I think it
probably.
was 18
I
because I think
I
it came
lost
out in
my mind
19.
at that E3 because that was we simultaneously so we got the reveal of the collection, which was uh adventure well, it's Final Fantasy Legend, but they later on kind of retitled it as being Adventures of Mana. Um and then Secret of Mana, which was like the big one on SNES, and then what we now know as Trials of Mana, which never came out in the US for a long time. That was one of those games where, like, if you were emulating a lot of fan translations in the early 2000s, that was like that game was your personality and you wouldn't shut up about it to tell other people why they need to play and experience it. That was me in high school. And so, you know, we got this reveal of a collection where they're finally localizing it and releasing it. And on top of that, they're also releasing separately just a full blown standalone remake. That was I lost my mind at that E3. Like that was such a cool thing for me. Um, and so that was like a like Square Enix in general, like reviving franchises was kind of a thing on the Switch. And Mana was a big one for sure.
Yeah, because I haven't played any of the Mana games. I have like Collection of Mana. I have Legend of Mana. I have the Secret of Mana remake. I have the Trials of Mana remake. I still need to pick up Visions of Mana, and then the original Secret of Mana like SNES cart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another series I want to play through. I mean, like obviously, like not all the Mana games are on Switch, but like a good chunk of them
A
are.
lot of
And
them,
so
yeah. Like all
yeah,
you're really missing are
like Sword and Children, I think.
Sword, which is kind of on it in the sense that Sword was like a reimagining of the first Mana game, so it's like it's
Sure.
another remake in a sense.
Okay.
Um, and then they don't have all the remakes. There was a remake of Adventures of Mana. There was a remake of uh, Secret of Mana. Those are only on PlayStation. Um, but Trials remake is on Switch.
What's the remake of Adventures?
It was on the Vita and mobile. It's just called Adventures of Mana, and it's the remake of the original. It's like in 3D, but it's authentic to like the Final Fantasy Legend, like simple plot line
Oh,
or Final
so
Fantasy
if I
Adventure. Yeah,
and it was only like for so console wise or like outside of mobile, it was only on Vita.
I think so, but I could be wrong on that.
Because because if that's the case, I need to get that on my Vita before the Vita shop
Uh,
closes.
yeah, Android, iOS, and PlayStation Vita. Never came anywhere else.
Wow.
It's fine, honestly. Like, I mean, I encourage you to play it if your goal is just to play through as many of them as you can. But
Hmm.
it's a 3D, very faithful remake of a somewhat bare bones Game Boy game that I think loses a bit of charm not being a Game Boy game. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, the Switch is a great place to experience most of the Mana series. Aside from Visions, that is, you know, maybe once they do Switch 2, maybe we'll see a port. But for now, uh, did not make its way over just yet. But all the main ones that I would say most people care about, like the kind of golden years, Secret of Mana, Trials of Mana, Legend of Mana, all those are on Switch. Good shit.
Yeah. Cool.
Love it.
Um. Also, probably like the first big third party Switch game, which is now like technically a franchise, Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
Um, I I think people were, how people were just like so shocked at like how beautiful the first Octopath Traveler looked. And just speaking for myself, I think that game was super disappointing. I think like the combat is great, and I think visually it's stunning, but like it just the story, how they implemented the story stuff, and
Yeah.
it just didn't really, yeah, it
I,
was really disappointing.
I liked Octopath Traveler, but I agree. I think it, there was a certain promise, I think, of early trailers, and not that there was anything specific that was promised, but it was just sort of like what you naturally build up in your head. Um, Particularly the big thing is like how the storytelling is handled, where every person just has their specific chapters, and the most you get crosswise is like you can activate one specific dialogue between characters commenting on your current story mission, and like that's it, and like very little crossover of how their stories intertwine until the last second. But I like it. I like two a lot more. Two showed a lot of growth, and really like Team Asano in general for Switch, right? Like
Yeah,
Triangle Strategy, which is still, at least in terms of consoles, exclusive to Switch. It made its way to VR, and I think it's on PC, right? Um, but not
yeah.
on
I think
PlayStation or
Triangle
Xbox.
Strategy is on PC. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, while not technically a Team Asano game, it's a Team Asano IP. Bravely Default 2.
Yeah, which I don't think people really expected. I'm still not, I haven't played that series, but just like I know it's still like kind of akin to it, but I'm not crazy about the art style
Mm-hmm.
of the Bravely Default games. But I that's still a series I wanna check out. And
Yeah.
speaking of like, this is a game that isn't like, I wouldn't say like the Switch version is the definitive version, or and it's not an exclusive, but I do think it was like really associated with the Switch, was Persona 5 Strikers.
Yes.
Because that was like kind of part of the reason why Joker got into Smash, was like, one, Sakurai wanted Joker in Smash because he was a big Persona 5 guy, but
Mhm.
like at the same time, basically, or like shortly after, it was like, hey, we're making Persona 5 Strikers, and it's a sequel, and I'm pretty sure it was announced at a Nintendo Switch Direct.
Probably, or at least yes, I think for like the English release. I don't know about the original because that also had like a delay between Japan and US. Um, but yes,
Yes, it
for the
came out
US release,
in.
it was a direct. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
and so I think that game is super underrated. Super underrated. Like, you should probably play it on PlayStation, because it is a real-time action game, but
Yeah, I
boy
feel
is
like
that game so good.
I feel like that's Omega Force in general. I feel like Omega Force is always underappreciated. I think they've begun to get a little more now. Like I think the new Dynasty Warriors like helped bring people's opinions up, but there's always been this weird like, oh, I don't like, even though these games aren't even like that same exact style. Like Strikers really isn't a Dynasty Warrior style game. Like there's things in common. You can see a little bit of that influence, but it's pretty different from any of them.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think there's just a lot of people that just see Omega Force and just are like, oh, I don't like Dynasty Warriors. I don't like Musou. And it's like that's not. Just try it.
Yeah, and I heard people like compare it also to Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, I don't see that either, but it very much kind of, it definitely has like elements of a bunch of different things. Like, there's no denying that like the kind of mobs aren't very, reminisce of like a Muso title, but it's not like a Muso game.
Yeah.
Um, and so I I do feel that way about Persona 5 Strikers. Like, it's really good, really underrated sequel. Like, if you play Persona 5 Royal or 5, doesn't really matter which. Um well, you should play Royal. If you're playing Persona 5, play Royal. But what I'm saying is, like, if you played one of them, uh you should play Persona 5 Strikers. It's a really great sequel. It's a really kind of like great get in, get
Yeah.
out type follow up,
and
and
and and like
not
it
enough
is
people
a
played it.
sequel. Like that's the
Yes,
thing
it is a
too. Like
sequel.
it's not like, oh, everyone had a dream and they're doing this adventure now, and like there's kind of always like a degree of like how much some of the spin-off games matter plot wise. It's like, how much did Tactica really happen? How much of the dancing games really happen? Do they actually like,
Yeah.
progress the characters' plots or arcs in any interesting ways? Same for like the Q games. They're all technically kind of canon, but in weird ways. Strikers is like, actually no, like the storyline is continued here, and like this is a continuation. Like it is straight up. Nothing weird about it.
Yep. Um, other games worth talking about. Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest 11. That was like the S version of that game. Came out to Switch first,
Hmm.
which implemented a whole bunch of cool things, including if I remember correctly, it was introduced in this updated version, being able to play the whole game in 2D.
Yeah, the two. Well, so they it was kind of a bring back in a sense because there was a 3DS version of the game that had different visuals, and we never got that in the
Yes.
US. So
Yes.
S was like a way of incorporating some of that into it, and then yeah, like adding that 2D aesthetic, which was so cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I still think it's like one of the most impressive things a video game has done in recent memory, where it's just like, yeah, you can play this game front to back two different ways.
yeah,
Like two like definitively different ways. And I think that fucking rules. And I wish like Dragon Quest is the series where it makes the most sense to do that. So like it's not like I'm saying like, oh, I wish more games did that, but it's just like, but also I wish more games did that. It's
yeah.
really cool.
And then like Dragon Quest in general, like yeah, like 11S, and then obviously more recently 3 HD 2D. But spin-offs, man, so many spin-offs that a lot of them are crossed with like PlayStation at least or PC. But like I know there was the Builders games. We were talking earlier about Dragon Quest Monsters, Dark Prince. There was the Treasures one that was like a year or two, like a couple years back. Lots of spin-offs that
Yeah.
were on
Yeah.
the Switch. Yeah.
Yeah, like I know people are huge fans of like Builders 2. Um and then yeah, and then even most recently the Dark Prince, which is a game I want to get to. That's like another like sub-series of Dragon Quest that I want to get to eventually.
Yeah.
Play the first two on DS, right? They're both on DS, and then play the third one on Switch. One thing that's worth mentioning, like these games didn't like super perform well. I think in the way that we hoped or in like they wanted, but I Am Setsuna, Lost Sphere, and uh Oninaki.
Oninaki, yeah.
Those were
Yeah,
the
the
three
Tokyo RPG Factory.
yeah, Tokyo RPG Factory games. And like I do think some people really like I Am Setsuna, but I feel like that Lost Sphere and like Lost Sphere was pretty like, oh, this is fine. And then Oninaki, like I just feel like at that point people just like really
Checked out.
weren't, yeah, they kind of
Yeah.
checked out. They weren't really vibing with them a
Yeah.
whole lot. But the few people that I know that did play that game, they liked it. They thought that it was like one, better than previous games. So I don't know,
Yeah.
like I want to play all of them eventually just to like get a
The,
sense of the vibe there, but
yeah, the RPG Factory games are fine, like overall. Like I think Setsuna is the strongest one. I like Setsuna. I played it when it first came out on PlayStation, and then they got the Switch port. I think like a year later. Um, yeah, they're like solid, fine games.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Um
will say for Setsuna specifically, soundtrack is phenomenal. I love the score for that game.
I've heard that. I have heard that.
Yeah.
Two things just to quickly pass by. We don't have to dig deep into
Sure.
them, mainly because we're not super. At least I'm not super knowledgeable in them. Switch really great for the Atelier series, which we
Yep.
kind of already talked about. Like all the modern, I think all the modern Atelier games up to current is on Switch, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And then Disgaea. Disgaea has outside of Disgaea 2 and 3, all the other Disgaea games are on Switch, which is cool.
Yeah.
So that's dope for those that care about that. Um, we've talked about it a whole lot, but the fact that Tokyo Mirage Sessions got ported to Switch is a miracle in my eyes,
Yes.
and I'm very happy that
Yeah.
that
And
happened.
true, like talking about Persona, like SMT as well, even though there's a lot that's trapped on the 3DS. We got the Nocturne remake and we got 5 twice.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Oof, man, SMT5 when it came out on Switch was rough in my
Yeah. I actually
opinion.
don't know if Vengeance made it much better because I just went ahead and grabbed that on PlayStation at that point.
I bought it on Switch and Xbox, but I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna play this on Xbox.
Yeah.
Um, and then you know, also on Switch, Trails. Like, I wouldn't say that Trails is like the definitive way to play this series. I would play it on like if you were playing console, I'd probably play the PlayStation versions more. But like also the Cold Steel game specifically, that is the definitive way to play those games. So Trails to Azure or Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, like those are the Switch has the best versions of those games. Same thing as Tokyo Xanadu. That's a port, but like as well, but they just recently re-released. They recently released that game on the Switch, and it has an updated localization and everything like that. That also very cool. Trying to think if there's anything else worth mentioning
There's a
before we
couple. I
wrap
mean,
things
honestly,
up.
like
Oh,
again,
Monster
Square.
Hunter Rise.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Rise. Yeah, was
Yeah,
originally only on Switch before it
yeah.
went to other platforms.
Mm-hmm. But
Um,
you're saying?
yeah, Square Enix Saga. Saga got a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of love on Switch.
100%.
We got Scarlet Grace and everything on there. The most recently with the remake of Romancing Saga 2, or not yes, Romancing Saga 2. We got the remaster of one of my personal favorites of the franchise, which is Saga Frontier, or Frontier Saga. I always switch in my head for some reason. What's really interesting about that one is it's not just a remaster, but it restored cut content, which was super awesome. There was a whole
Oh,
playable
okay.
character and storyline that was not on the PlayStation that made it to the Switch version. So Saga got a lot of love. And then the one that I scream about constantly, and this is for similar reasons as Trials of Mana, Live Alive. Like, the fact that happened at all is so wild to me. And Nintendo produced that for coming to the West. Like, originally it was only going to be a remake in Japan, and then Nintendo was like, we can handle having it like coming out to the West. We'll handle like that release. Bonkers to me. Like, I don't know who convinced Square to remake this game in the first place, and who convinced that like Nintendo to bring it over here, but I love both of those people. Just such a gem of a game, and so happy it came back. And then back
Well,
spent.
go ahead.
Oh, and then I said, like, also just, dancing around Square Enix, like, Final Fantasy in general, like, even though it's not, like, unique to Switch, I mean, it's such a great
Yeah.
place to play so many of them now. I mean, all the Pixel remasters, there's digital versions for 7, 8, and 9. 8 got remastered lightly. Like, so much is on the Switch now to just play all of arguably, like, the golden years of that franchise. Like, you can't play the newest ones, but you can play a lot of the great ones.
Some other one-offs I want to mention too that are like just really cool that they exist. Star Ocean, Second
Yep.
Story R. Like
Yep.
that game is stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning, beautiful.
Which
And
also, First Departure's on there too. Like it didn't get as much
Yes.
fanfare because it was a port of a remake that already existed, but like that's a great game too.
And no physical release.
Yeah, no physical voice. Yeah,
Yeah, which sucks.
that was
But like,
that was
Second Story
disappointing.
R, really cool. And I don't know how well that game performed, but I hope it performed well enough where we can get like till the end of time and like,
Yeah.
because I think like depending on who you ask, it's like till the end of time or Second Story are like the best of the series.
Yeah,
So it'd
Till
be
the
really
Time's
cool.
a little. There's like a little back and forth on it. Like there's certain stuff it does really well, and other stuff that it's a little frustrating.
Mhm.
But Second Story is definitely like very beloved.
Yeah, because like because the Divine Force came out and I started playing it and I'm like, it wasn't that it was bad, it was just like, okay, I kind
It
of just
was it wasn't good.
I just I
It,
didn't know it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that. I don't even get that far to say that. It was more just like I want to just start from the beginning. I just want to start from the beginning. And I know that these are like basically like their own games, but I just want to start from the beginning. So, I have like I have First Departure and Second Story are on Switch. I have the other ones that like aren't available physically. Like they're you can buy them digitally
yeah.
on PS4 or PS5, and then I have Divine Force on Xbox.
Yeah, and also
So
to
like
be
that's
fair, actually,
basically
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Divine Force is actually pretty good. My brain went to Integrity and Faithlessness, which is not.
oh yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
like the bottom rung of the franchise. That was 5, and 5
That's
is
what
not.
I heard that one is notoriously not good.
It's
But yeah, I want to shout Star Ocean Second Story Arc because that game,
yeah.
from what I've played, was really really good.
Again, Square
And
Enix, man, like they had a
yeah,
lot of like they were like one of the biggest supporting companies on the Switch.
they killed it, and I mean, yeah, they really killed it. Also, Bandai Namco with like, granted, like not all of the ports were great, but like are ideal, but Tails,
Tails.
you know, it's great. And then like Baten Kaitos. I never thought those
Happens.
games would get ported.
Yeah.
Um, I still need to get my physical copy for that game eventually. And you know, outside of Trails, NIS did like do some cool stuff. They did like the percents volumes, specifically like notably like Rhapsody, like the Rhapsody
Mhm.
games, and then like releasing the new a new Rhapsody as well, or like
Yeah.
I think it was the maybe the port of the one that never got localized. Like really cool stuff.
Yeah. And there are other strategy games too, right? Like La Pucelle and
Yeah.
Makai Kingdom, I think, was in one of the collections.
Lungrisser, I think is the one
Langreiser
and
is another one.
two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lungreiser, yeah. Also, again, not like specifically dedicated to Switch, but I still associated with the Switch. Ace Attorney
Oh yeah.
collections, the Ace Attorney collections,
I mean,
and
that's
the
yeah. Like that's
and
Capcom, but that's Nintendo in my mind.
Mega Man Battle Network. Like when Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection got announced, I still haven't played them,
Yeah.
but I was like, holy shit! Like they actually are doing this.
Yeah. Capcom's like new game for support for Switch has been a little hit and miss. Because they've been investing in a lot of like higher, I think, demanding stuff. And again, we got Monster Hunter Rise, and we
Yeah.
got like later, but like yeah, collections for stuff like Ace Attorney, Mega Man, a lot of the fighting game collections, the beat 'em up collections, just killer. Like, and I like Switch for a lot of those because especially like the arcade collections, those aren't demanding games, and now I just have a nice little way to play it, you know, either handheld or do some couch co-op.
Yeah. And just a bit more recently, Fantasian, you know,
Yeah.
that was something that I did not expect we were going to get a non-mobile version of because Sakaguchi's just like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. So shout out to Yoshi P for convincing him at dinner. Um, and yeah, dude, there's just like, I mean, like, again, not the ideal way to play, but like, you know, East got a lot of love on the Switch as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, like the Switch has the best library of video games, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Well, and just again, RPGs in specific, like there's a lot of systems where you can maybe argue their original brand new titles were like maybe a stronger library, but in terms of just the breadth of so many games between collections and retro stuff and uh,
Indies.
indies, and then obviously what new games we did get for it as well. Switch was a powerhouse for the genre, man. It's I
Yeah.
know a lot of RPG folks I know, a lot. If they have one system, it's probably a Switch, and if they have two systems, it's a Switch and a PlayStation, and it's just because the more demanding ones they'll pick up on PlayStation and then Switch for everything else. Like,
Yep.
it's good
I
stuff.
mean, that's the same for me. It's like if there's a Xbox version, I would like to get the Xbox version. If it needs to be if it's a little bit more demanding, and then I get Switch, and that's just the way it is because it's just that good of a system. And there's just like so many of these games that we were talking about. I still haven't played. I still haven't played them, and I want to, but
Yeah.
there's just so many fucking games, dude.
And there's more that we definitely did not cover. Like some of it's getting a little more into like some specific niche stuff, but like there's just so
Yeah.
much that was on the system.
Absolutely. It's really incredible. And what makes it all better is that the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, baby. We don't have to
Hell
worry
yeah.
about bringing out our old Switches to play all of these great games.
And some of
Uh
these games might actually run a little better. Like, you know, even with a patch, like just there's a few that probably had some frame rate problems, and just by virtue of having a stronger system is going to help smooth that out a little bit. I'm actually very
yes.
curious, like what games are kind of like, don't pick up the Switch version, are now going to be like, actually, like if you want to play this back compat on Switch too, pretty solid.
Yeah, we talked about it before, but I hope Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is one of those games. Um
It'll definitely help the like dynamic resolution scaling. Like it's not gonna down res nearly as much because it's just not gonna need
yeah.
to. Like because that's the thing it does in reaction to like, oh, I don't want the frame rate to drop, so I need to bring the resolution down. It's not going to do that nearly as much. It'd be great if it got like actual system specific patching, like if they got like an actual like updated version. But whether or not it does, you should at least see some improvement.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, that was a great long episode
It sure
of
was.
the podcast. Is that our new record?
It might not be, but it's getting close. We're at 224
Okay.
right now. I think our longest was 240. I'm not
Okay, okay.
100%.
Yeah, I knew that going into this, we're like, this is gonna be a long episode. We're
Well,
talking about the
eh,
Switch
yeah.
library here.
Well, and again, I thought we were only doing RPGs, so the moment you started talking like Metroid and stuff, I'm like, oh, we're going in. Okay. Like,
I mean,
it's gonna
like
be a minute.
it's an Eastern title, you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah, no, it
mean?
is. It
Like,
is. It is. Yeah.
so yeah, because we kind of just like went, we just kind of went into the deep end when we were talking about Mario. I'm like, if we're talking about Mario, then like we might as well talk about all of Mario. So yeah, he's like, why not? Why not? But yeah, so that is our episode for this week. Thank you everyone for listening. We hope you all have a good week, and until next time, we'll catch you later.
Later.